welcome back to the Sounds of Stadia podcast for episode number 158 of your weekly Google Stadia podcast, where we round up all of the Stadia and cloud gaming news for your listening, viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. We've got a show lined up for you, and we'll be talking about all the gaming news and, of course, the big topic of the week, the year, the month, the century. And we're doing it live as well. We do have a wonderful audience here with us today celebrating our 3rd year anniversary. This is being recorded on Saturday, the 1st of October, celebrating 3 years of this very podcast, the Sounds of Stadia podcast, the longest running Stadia podcast in the world. If you haven't done so already, do give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great non-Stadia content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our PlayStation Talking the PS podcast, CloudQuest, our weekly topical cloud gaming show, our weekly live streams, first looks, and much, much more. But before we get into all that, I have already introduced him in the live show, but he's still here with me for this show. Right from the very beginning, 3 years in, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone. You know what I want to see from everyone? Because we are doing this, recording this live. I want, when we get to the tongue twister, I want to see everyone's comment with the news.
The news. Yeah, Richie, it's a weird one. We had a doc of news lined up, which we'll briefly skim into, I guess. But what a week it's been. We're here celebrating, of course, 3 years of this channel, of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, which was our fledgling podcast. It was our idea to do a weekly show based on Google Stadia. And yeah, we just wanted to bring you the news every week in a discussional format, in a podcast format, so you could listen to it during your commute to work, your spare time. You could watch it on your TV, on your phone, however you consume news content, but give you something interactive. And we've always kind of gone above and beyond to try and make it a polished product with trailers and gameplay footage overlay. And we've done it now for 3 whole years, to the day yesterday, 30th of September. And what started off as just a small idea, thankfully has expanded, and we've got a wonderful community with us now, around us, some fantastic people out there from the beginning right to the end, some from the very start, some have joined us along the way. And yeah, after 3 years, we've reached this bittersweet point. 158 episodes, 3 years to be exact. It's almost to the day. And here we are, the life and death of Google Stadia, Richie. There's no really way to sugarcoat it.
I think as well, before we get into like the actual news section, let's discuss on the podcast what this actually means for the channel going forward. Mm-hmm. Because we do need to I do want to keep pushing that message out there. We're not going anywhere. Helix Cloud Games is still going to thing. We're still planning to make content. The Discord's still going to be there. The channel's still going to be there. All of our shows are still going to be there. Sounds of Stadia, however, we haven't decided how, but we do need to sunset that show because no Stadia means no Stadia news, which means the Stadia News podcast is no longer viable.
I mean, if we're honest, we haven't had news for about 5 months now, but we've done our best with
the
help of Stadia Source, Stadia Dosage.
But now there can't be even any speculation. It's like,
yeah, that's true. And we'll get into it, but we know why the likes of Assassin's Creed Mirage and stuff were not in the news. And yeah, we'll get into all that, but I think you're completely right, Richie. We do need to stress, again, everyone watching along live right now for the 3rd year celebration, is we're not going anywhere. We have no plans to throw in the towel, and this, especially I've seen a lot of people over the last few days, the community that's built around this is genuinely the best part. That's the best thing that's came out of Stadia, is the wonderful folk, the wonderful people across the world who've just enjoyed and revelled and had great times using, of course, the power of Google Stadia, but also just making these connections, these bonds, these relationships. And we've made some great friends along the way, and hopefully they don't just disappear and fade because the source of our kind of friendship is gone. It doesn't mean that we can't all stay together and game together and have fun together and catch up and such. And if anything, it gives us all a chance to evolve and beyond just one gaming platform and continue our love and fandom of video games and cloud gaming full stop into the future. There's loads of stuff coming technology always evolves and always changes, and as I said in the live show, that clouds don't stay still, and neither will we, Richie. And we've always said play wherever makes you the happiest, so we know a lot of our viewers and listeners don't even necessarily play Stadia as their main platform, and quite frankly, neither do I haven't done for some time, and that's down to a lot of stuff from business models to practices and beyond that.
For me, it's mainly just the games that I want to play when coming to Stadia.
Yeah.
When games that I wanted to play came to Stadia, I tend to bought them on Stadia. Like, I had pre-ordered FIFA on Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting delivery from Amazon with my PS5 version today.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and yeah. I thought you were saying something then.
No, that was it.
But yeah, so of course, check out our other content. We'd absolutely love you to join us along the way. We'll still be doing live streams on a Thursday. I presume it'll probably be some Stadia games as we head towards January, but naturally, as we know, we're not getting anything new. We might pivot towards some new content on the channel. You know what? One of the things that I'd like to do, Richie, is start getting back to some more actual like game streams, like chapter game streams. So we're actually playing through a full game. I know we had a great time with Tomb Raider back in the day. Yeah. I've done a couple, but yeah, rather than just them just be one-off streams, yeah, there's stuff in the pipeline we've got plans for, and there's stuff that I know I want to do as well. So we're always trying to think of that next big thing, and this is kind of just going to push us to do it.
We mentioned at the start of the stream, but it's the news is kind of bittersweet. In some ways, it's like it's sad that Sounds of Stadia is going to go away. The show that started this channel, this community, is going away. In other words, it's kind of exciting because this gives us a nice moment to kind of go back into the channel and tweak a few things, maybe start some new shows, change existing shows to make a bit more sense going forward for us. And yeah, I'm excited for the future, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly the same. We'll evolve, we'll change, we'll grow, but more importantly, we'll do it with you. So do let us know in the comments, in the chat, what you'd like to see from our channel next, what your plans are. And yeah, hopefully, just because Stadia's gone doesn't mean we're gone, doesn't mean you're gone. It doesn't mean video games are gone. The video games industry, as we've said for weeks on weeks on weeks, is only getting bigger, is only getting better. And just because Google don't have the foresight to stick at it beyond 3 freaking years, then that's their own loss, quite frankly.
Telling them for 3 years what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. Like,
we'll get into all that. We'll get into all that. Which I guess, Richie, for one of the few last time. Again, we should probably say this probably won't be the last Sounds of Stadia podcast either. I know it feels like it to some degree because of the news and stuff, but it's still running until January. There's going to be lots of fallout, I'm imagining, from this in terms of, I mean, we'll get into a little bit, but like devs, games, publishers, refunds. If anything, that's more news that we have to cover than we would have done in the past several months. So
we'll go as long as it makes sense for us to go, basically.
Yeah. So don't unsubscribe. Keep locked to your podcast feeds, and one of the ideas I've touted around is if some of the big faces in the community, we might try and get them on for like just a weekly, like a recap, and talk about our favourite memories and what we're still playing and etc. etc. But we're still figuring stuff out, like a lot of people are in the wake of the news. So, but again, let us know. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because this channel wouldn't be anything without you. So help us create the future with it.
When you saw the news, did you find it weirdly reaffirming of like why you want to be a content creator? Because for me, immediately as soon as I saw the news, I went start thinking, okay, what's this mean for the channel? And the creative juices just started flowing. It's like, what do we do going forward? How will you change this? What do we do that? I was like, oh yeah, I am a content creator. Like,
absolutely.
That was my initial response. Is like, okay, I'm starting to think about our content and our channel and our community.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, the people out there, we make this for you, so I'd hate to think you go every week without that kind of 1.5 hour slot every Monday, and it's almost like, yeah, we're trying to fill them gaps. But yeah, do let us know. You help create this community, so we'll get into it all. But it's going to be a great show. It's probably going to be a super long show actually, Rich, as well, because we're streaming all day, so we're not beholden to any timelines or schedules other than this very channel today. So, Richie, introduce us to and say it along with us, chat. He'll say it extra slow just so you can type it while we're going.
Just try and get the news on there. The super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
Oh, you blew my ears off with that one.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes. He cranks up his volume, and then that's all you hear. The news, boys and girls. It's lovely to see it live. Brendan, Phil, Louise, Andrew. We know you sit along at home every single week. Hungry Moogle as well. The news. And as we said, top of the show, Richie, there was only really one news story that we were going to talk about on this week's episode. And ironically enough, looking at the doc, this is probably the most loosely arranged doc of news we've ever had, because usually it's quite structured, and I gather the trailers ahead of time and footage and gameplay and stuff.
Yeah, we're usually throwing stories in as a developer of the week, getting ready, and then we usually consolidate it before we go live, before we start recording. But yeah,
however, not this
week.
week.
It makes no more sense.
Not this week. So, just to quickly skim into what we would have been talking about, we had Jackbox Party 9 got an actual date. We don't know whether that's going to actually arrive or not. There's a game called Haunty. The dev was teasing that it's going to come to Stadia, or looking at bringing it to Stadia. Pixel Games titles were set to come. So over on Twitter, they confirmed that they were working on some titles. We got Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero, which I know you were excited about, Richie.
Yeah, that was more of it was just there was like an overlay with like the Stadia controller buttons seen in the screenshot within the game, and it has been announced for Luna, so that was that seems likely to come.
That seems very likely. And in a bunch of other stuff, there was a Razer Edge 5G cloud device announced we'll talk about. We were going to talk about Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones has been delayed, pushed back to March, which we thought, okay, that means there's a AAA game coming in 2023. No, it's not. It's not. Skull and Bones will never come out on Google Stadia because of the nature of the games. I guess. When was Dead Island set to come out? Now I'm thinking out loud. That was February, right? So we're not going to see that either. Yeah. Jeez.
Well, I think it's fair to say we're not seeing any more games because the store's dead.
That's true.
It's closed.
That's true. I don't know why in my mind I thought they'd still be dropping arriving. But so there was a show designed up until Thursday when we got, of course, the big news from the big daddy himself, Mr. Phil Harrison. He only comes out to deliver bad news, Richie.
Yeah.
Does this
He's
fella.
turned up to work twice in 2 years and neither times went well.
No, the last time he showed up, he closed down the internal studios, and then he goes silent for 2 odd years, and then he shows back up, and he tells us the bad news. So I'll read it verbatim, boys and girls. We all seen notifications out on social media come on this past Thursday, 29th of September. It was about, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, UK time?
Well, I was just finishing work. I got off work about 5:30, and literally I just checked my phone as I was walking to my car. I was like, oh.
Oh.
Well, that's news. Everything was just kicking off.
It might impact us. So, reading from Phil Harrison, the Vice President and General Manager of Google Stadia. Not for very long. For many years, Google has invested across multiple aspects of the gaming industry. We help develop, build, and distribute gaming apps on Google Play and Google Play Games. Gaming creators and reaching audiences around the world on YouTube through videos, live streaming, and shorts, and our cloud streaming technology delivers immersive gameplay at massive scale. A few years ago, we also launched a consumer gaming service, Stadia. And while Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong technology foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. So we've made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service. We're grateful to the dedicated Stadia players that have been with us from the start. We will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchases made through the Google Store and all game and add-on content purchases made through the Stadia Store. Players will continue to have access to their game's library and play through January 18th, 2023, so they can complete final play sessions. We expect to have the majority of refunds completed by mid-January 2023, and we'll have more details for players on the process at our help centre. The underlying technology platform that powers Stadia has been proven at scale and transcends gaming. We see clear opportunity to apply this technology across other parts of Google, like YouTube, Google Play, and our augmented reality efforts, as well as making it available to our industry partners, which aligns with where we see the future of gaming heading. We remain deeply committed to gaming And we continue to invest in new tools, technologies, and platforms that power the success of developers, industry partners, cloud customers, and creators. From the Stadia team, building and supporting Stadia from the ground up has been fueled by the same passion for games that our players have. Many of the Stadia team members will be carrying this work forward in other parts of the company. We're grateful for the groundbreaking work of the team, and we look forward to continuing to have an impact across gaming and other industries using the foundational Stadia streaming technology.
Before we rip this to shreds, I think what I want to do is I want to give a massive shout out to everyone who's worked on Google Stadia behind the scenes, who's poured the blood, sweat, and tears into it. Because Phil Harrison has straight up said in this thing that the technology is good and it works. It's conceptually good. So it's not the team who've made Stadia, it's not the team, it's not the social team, the people who are publicly facing, it's not the engineers in the background. This isn't their fault. And I want to thank them for the work and creating this awesome platform that I've enjoyed for the last 3 years. Yeah,
I completely want to echo that. We know the team. There's obviously the biggest thing from this is the harsh reality that people are going to have to rethink their kind of career pathways, their jobs. Some people may be out of a job. I know they usually just mold them into different areas of Google, but it's still not the same when these things happen. It's all well and good saying we're going to retain your job role or we're going to move you in another area, but if that's not what you're passionate about or that wasn't your decision, it sometimes never works out. But yeah, I think we're completely right, Richie. The technology underlining all of this, it 100% works. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, the takeaway thinking, when it's gone in January and realising that I couldn't buy FIFA yesterday, is that I have no other options now than to go back to downloading a 40 gig file and patches and uploads and being beholden to my... I've just had a year's worth of playing FIFA on my phone, and now I can't play it on my phone. Just gone, and yeah, but... Yes, this impacts real people, and we'll get into it with the news, but like the devs and the publishers, everyone working hard, all the indie devs, all the people who lost their jobs in the past as well. Remember Jade Raymond in the first party studios over a year ago?
Yeah, I mean,
they were all impacted.
I was going to get onto with Phil Harrison saying, never gain traction. I'd like to sit down with him and go, what exactly did you do to try and get it to gain traction? Because as we've been saying, sometimes we get called out for basically being like a broken record. That the main thing, that the lack of games coming to Stadia was the absolute Achilles heel of the platform. Mm-hmm. So you want to get a video game platform to gain traction, you need to provide the games. Closing Stadia Games and Entertainment was a big problem, but I think it was something that they could have survived on if they were getting the likes of Elden Ring and everything else that's come out this year and came out last year. If they're getting all the third party big AAAs day and date, like we hoped they would get, like the kind of promise they would get on the concept of it.
Yeah.
Then I think Stadia, we'd be continuing the Sounds of Stadia podcast into next year and going forward. So when Phil Harrison says, I didn't gain traction, it's like, but you didn't really. It's almost like he didn't understand what gamers were after. He didn't understand that gamers need games. It doesn't matter how good the tech is if you don't have the games that people want to play. If you want to get mass market appeal, you need to get the games that are mass market appeal.
Absolutely. And shutting your internal studios, which I think everybody knows, though the Stadia Games Entertainment Studios should have been in the works for several years before Project Stream was even made public. You should have been hiring teams, making games, building the foundations so that when you launched your product in November 2019, you had one exclusive to go, at least one exclusive to pad out your library with something that could only be played on your platform. And then in the years to come, you would have added more. And I think when they acquired the guys who made Journey to the Savage Planet, that was the first step of what everyone else is doing. Microsoft, Embracer Group, Sony, they've all been acquiring studios to make their library. Tencent.
There's been in the last 2 years, we've covered probably hundreds of studios that have been bought by someone else. Google should have been in the mix. Padding out with Stadia Games and Entertainment being their publishing label, than buying studios to serve under that.
Mm-hmm. It's a big flaw, and I genuinely think one of the biggest things is Google, because we've got to remember, it's Stadia, then Google, and then Alphabet.
Yeah.
Sundar, what's he called? Peach, I can't remember his name. The head of Alphabet or something. One of the first things he said on stage at GDC was, "I'm not much of a gamer myself." No shit, mate. You've made that very, very clear. So you
and in
hire
hindsight,
experts.
you're kind of thinking, why were you on stage then? On this presentation?
Head of Alphabet probably has to do some part. But I think from the very get-go, they didn't know what they were doing. They clearly knew what they were doing with the technology, but the gaming industry, they made this big splash about AAA games, 4K 60, in the cloud, on any device, and they just never followed up with the games. And I think that will always be, and I know loads of people out there have been criticised over the years for talking about like the games, and I think like Duncan was one of them as well from the very beginning. Said, yeah, if the game, people go where the games are, and like I've said that as well, and that's I think the biggest problem is year on year tick by, and we got, albeit good little indie games, and we got the odd AAA game in there, but when you look at the wealth of the rest of the industry and what every other platform was offering, it fell short time and time again. And after 3 years, in hindsight, looking back, yeah, they did miss the boat on a lot of stuff, and a lot of that was done to themselves. It was internal decisions and the lack of spending did that. And I know they got criticised because they had to spend money to get, I think, for Resident Evil Village and Biohazard, they spent rumoured to be $10 million, right? Microsoft's spending $78 billion on acquiring Activision Blizzard. Billion. So you can't criticise them saying, oh, they gave Rockstar a couple million to get Red Dead 2. Yes, it cost you money because you have to build that library for people to come and play.
I mean, it's been a while since I've said this, but that you should see that as an investment, because eventually you will get to this critical. If you keep doing these investments, like Red Dead, like you did with Doom, like you did with Assassin's Creed, like you've done with Resident Evil and Cyberpunk, if you keep doing these investments, the platform will continue to grow, and you'll eventually get to the critical mass where publishers want to put the game on your platform, so then you're not covering the development cost of it. They'll happily do it themselves, because Sony aren't paying Ubisoft to get the game over, because Ubisoft are looking at Sony and all the PlayStation out in the wild like, we want our game on that platform. But you need to get to that critical mass first. And you just need to keep investing. You need to stand behind your product and go, the tech's there, it's great, we can keep developing that in the background, but we need to keep pushing this forward. Yeah.
They should have looked at Stadia as a startup where they knew it was going to eat a loss for many, many years. But
maybe
because
Stadia might have even had to take a loss for 10 years before it's profitable.
Yeah. I believe that, but then we always say about regarding PlayStation and Xbox that they often make a loss on the hardware because they make it back in the software. Stadia didn't have that luxury because they weren't really selling any hardware aside from a controller and a Chromecast, so it had to take it from a different approach. But being a new player to a multi-million-dollar market, it isn't going to be cheap to get into it. But I don't believe a company like Google, who are probably worth billions to close to trillions of dollars, can't manage acquiring more studios and building out games for their own library. When we talk about it every week about Embracer buying this studio here, this studio, they just bought the rights to Lord of the Rings. Google must be worth 10, 15, 20 times more than the Embracer Group is. And yet they'd made no moves to solidify their place in this industry aside from, we've got this great tech, please play us. And that's not enough.
Embracer is an interesting one because Embracer started off originally as just THQ Nordic, which a Phoenix company that came out the ashes of the original THQ.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, for the first few years, it just felt like they were just buying IP and not putting any games out. But now they're putting loads of games out and they're still buying IP. It's like, yeah, so they've done that. They've went through that investment phase. Now they've got the products coming out. I don't know if they're profitable yet, but they're definitely on the track to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's worried about THQ Nordic or the Embracer Group as they're now grown into. No one's worried about them just disappearing overnight.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
And we'll break it down no more. Have we got any questions in the chat to bring to light about this one while we're waiting?
There's a lot of people just like kind of just echoing what we said. In Leeds says it's like opening a movie theater and don't tell anyone. I kind of like think it's like opening a movie theater, but only playing Vietnamese home movies, and then wondering why people aren't coming when there's a cinema down the street playing Avengers.
I was thinking Avengers when I was thinking about what big movie can I show.
Well, yeah, you just go for the biggest franchise in the world right now for movies. It's like,
showing like black and white silent movies from the early 20s or something. Yes.
Oh, it's fine.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Anything in particular from the blog that kind of strikes you as like a total miss-hit? One of mine is definitely when he says it didn't get the traction, and my immediate thing is like, it didn't get the traction because you didn't market it for shit over 3 years.
There's hardcore gamers out there right now who've never even heard of Google Stadia.
Yeah, the first time a lot of people will have heard of Stadia was in this week's news, because ironically it's had more coverage over the last 48 hours than it probably has in 3 years.
Or they heard about it 3 years ago when it was announced, and they're like, oh, that's still a thing. Or even, oh, that came out. They just haven't done enough to like get their attention. And it feels like you haven't even... It feels like from our point of view that there hasn't been any real concerted effort to try. Like, I know there's been bits of it, like Cyberpunk was a big push. I think Resident Evil was a bit of a big push. The launch, I mean, they had to backtrack on some features going in, was a bit of a push. And one thing we actually had to remind ourselves was initially you could only get Stadia with Pro, which is, I think it's ingrained in some people's heads that you needed a subscription fee in order to use it. But that hasn't been the case for now for almost 3 years. Yeah. But people still have that. Like, I think it was in the Verge article mentioned that. It's like people still have that in their heads. Yeah. You haven't done enough to change that. You haven't done enough to get the IGNs of the world, to get the GameSpots, to get that kind of funnies talking about this on a regular basis, so their audience are hearing what's coming, what's going on with the platform. And that's it. And plus the games, like, it just feels like again, I think the team who were working on Stadia, like day in, day out, really wanted to succeed and put every effort they can into it. Yeah. But it's like, but you only have so much budget. There's only so many people there. Like, it's not their fault. It's upper management. It's Google themselves, like, not backing this in the way they should have done.
There's so many things we've covered across the years, and it all pretty much started from, I think, 2020. And again, we will never know what the true reality is of budget and how much COVID hit them and their expectations and what Alphabet set on them from above to kind of, he's 50 million, make this a success. And then the reality is after year one, the turned around went, we kind of need about 50 times more than that to make this a success. And Alphabet went,
50 billion, can you turn that into a B, not an M?
Yeah, and it just didn't work. And there's loads of stuff like along the way that could have been changed and could have been done differently. And we've kind of came to a point on this show when we've been saying in an alternate future where we have... I've seen Maelster in the chat says we had a Kojima game. We had High on Life comes to Game Pass next week. The Rick and Morty game.
Did you see the rumours of why they rejected the Kojima game because it was a single player experience?
Yeah.
Like what?
And Phil Harrison had the final say on that as well. Apparently,
I think it just shows like the priorities. Like it wasn't about getting good games, interesting games, novel games that would drive people to the platform.
Yeah.
It's just people like multiplayer games that focus on that, but then they didn't. Because it doesn't make sense if you're really like going, no, we want to focus more, we want to see it to be more of a multiplayer-centered experience. Why haven't we got Call of Duty? Why haven't we got Fortnite? Things like games like that that are going to drive the multiplayer experience of the platform. Yeah. So it just feels like... that's rumours, but if it's true, it feels disingenuous, to be honest.
It's just mismanagement on all parts, isn't it, really, in terms of direction, tone, what they're going to do. Shout out to Maker of Chaos as well, who's just dropped a $20 super chat. Says, always enjoy your content, with or without Stadia. We'll be looking forward to seeing new content as well. Thank you, Maker of Chaos, for your patronage support. Super chat. Helix Hero, through and through. We absolutely love you all. I can see a few people in the comments as well pointing out some great points. Miles says, I've heard the growing frustration in Chris's voice in the last several podcasts with Stadia's untraditional approach. And I think a lot of it, what we echo in our very own podcast, Richie, is I'd like to think my ears are quite close to the ground in terms of the games industry. I listen to a lot of video game podcasts from across IGN, independent sources, through PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch. I try and pick up on them all, and... the reality is the way the games industry works, Stadia's almost gone out of its way to do everything in it the opposite. And has been frustrating to see when they've done no marketing campaigns, no promotions, no AAA games, no events. We're coming up on the 3rd year birthday in November of Google Stadia. It'll be 3 years old, and not once did it make an appearance at E3. Not once did it make an appearance at a Game Awards. The most it got was Phil Harrison at a Ubisoft Forward digital event. The Stadia Connects, they just stopped existing, and they didn't tell us why. The Twitter and social accounts went quiet. They reduced their blog posts to twice a week, and even then, when they showed up, there was nothing in them. And for someone whose bread and butter is YouTube and ad revenue and marketing and promos, you would think they had nothing to do with it, because they just mismanaged it to the high heavens. And it's kind of unbelievable how a company with such legacy and history as Google and YouTube failed so epically at marketing their own product.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob in our Discord said the other day, like, Google aren't a marketing company; they're an advertisement company, and it's not the same thing. Google, they sell advertisements, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're good at marketing products. I think things like the Pixel phone is probably a lot easier to market than something like Google Stadia, because this is an Android phone. Initially, they were marketing the Pixel as this is the best place to have experience in Android phone. Mm-hmm. It's our software on our hardware. So that kind of writes itself. Yeah. Stadia, it's this novel thing that people were skeptical of. And we're just... Again, I've seen people even over the last few days saying, "Oh, cloud gaming, it doesn't work. It doesn't work." And it's like, it really does. Like,
absolutely,
cloud gaming, I 100% still believe is the future. And now although Google Stadia is going, I think Google Stadia is probably one of the most important things to happen to gaming in a long time, because it's drove Xbox to double down on cloud gaming. It drove Amazon to push out Luna eventually. It's things like Nvidia have worked hard on GeForce now. Even Sony have kind of started pushing, trying to figure out how cloud gaming works. Nintendo are offering cloud gaming.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of that happened, at least not the speed that it has been happening, without Google Stadia.
No,
Google, where this massive tech company with billions and billions of pounds that they could throw into it, walking into the gaming industry and went, you sit down, look, pay attention to us, and then didn't say anything for 3 years when people were sat there looking, well, go on then.
Yeah. They definitely shook the tree and made an impression. And the technology, yeah. I've done the same. I've replied to a few comments across social media and such the last 2 days of people still saying, like, haha, cloud gaming is just a fad, it's going to pass. And it's like, these are the same people who probably said DVDs, Blu-rays, they're never going to come. Digital music streaming, it's never going to happen. Streaming TV, I've got my collection, it's not going to happen. And it just does. That's how technology works. It always eventually happens.
Microsoft know gaming. Microsoft have been involved in video games before the Xbox. Microsoft have been involved in gaming for a long time. And they said, probably about 3 years ago, that they see companies like Google and Amazon as their bigger competition going forward than the likes of Nintendo or PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And because I think, as I've said many times, I think Microsoft probably look at the current Xboxes and think these might be the last Xboxes that we make. And going forward, we'll push everything into the cloud. I think Game Pass was the first step. They're constantly developing xCloud or Xbox Cloud Gaming, if you prefer to give it its proper title, which I don't.
Prefer xCloud as well, yeah.
xCloud's better. It just,
could have Stadia now.
To talk about.
Yeah. Xbox Stadia, whatever that looks like.
It's like they're pushing the gaming industry in that direction, but they have the luxury of also having the box under the TV, so they can take an entire console generation
and a library.
And the library
of first party content. But yeah, I think you are completely right. I think Stadia has had to crawl and walk so that others can run, essentially. I think is the best way of looking at it. There will be companies that come out off the back of that. The annoying thing is immersive stream could very much just take on the body of something else. I could very much see Ubisoft launching a Ubisoft cloud platform powered by Stadia. We'll just never be able to enjoy it as Stadia fans. It'll have to be through Ubisoft Plus in the future.
Let's not talk too much about that, because that's a future CloudQuest.
Well, we won't go too much into it.
Literally, I've put that into the docket, like, what next for, like, immersive stream. So that'll be coming to you in the next few weeks as a CloudQuest.
Rob asks in the chat, do you think things could have been different if Google had picked another person to lead the project aside from Phil Harrison? Of course, Phil Harrison botched PlayStation 3's launch, botched Xbox One's launch, and 3 years in, he's done fucked up Stadia's launch as well. So, Richie?
It's hard to know because, well, he is the figurehead, and I think it's right to criticism for how Stadia ended up. But there's no guarantee putting even like someone like Reggie Fils-Aimé into that role. He might have had the same restrictions that Phil had in his job and not being able to drive it forward in the way he wanted to. So unless Phil turns around and goes, look, I'm not happy with like the people above me at Google. I was kind of handcuffed on the entire time, couldn't do what I wanted to do with the platform. It's hard to know, but I would generally think, yes, I think someone who is naturally more of a public-facing, someone who is more inclined to stand up on stage and talk about it, and like who maybe understands like gaming in a different way to Phil does, might have worked better. Like I think Reggie is probably like a good example of someone like Reggie understood so well what Nintendo was, what its successes are, and knew how to push that to people. And he knew that Nintendo didn't need to keep up in terms of like compete 1-for-1 with PlayStation in terms of the power of the hardware, because it's all for them. Nintendo's philosophy is always about making the games fun, and that was the highest priority. So as long as the games were coming that were fun and inventive, the money's going to keep rolling in.
Yeah. I mean, we never will know. That's the reality. It does strike a chord of that. This guy just seems like a cursed chalice. When you look back at his career, he seems to just somehow be fumbling his way through to jobs and success in an industry that it doesn't appear that he knows that much about in hindsight. That's 3 product console launches in this industry that he's been a part of, and Xbox has gone on a better thing since, PlayStation's gone on a better thing since, Stadia's not going to go on a better thing since, but maybe Immersive Stream will. And you're totally right, he might be handcuffed from the higher-ups, but in that alternative world, Richie, where we hit that 3-year mark, imagine if the first-party studios were still going, almost ready to actually show us what they've got. They've acquired a couple more studios. I would swap Phil Harrison out for, he recently joined Tencent, but Sean Layden, who was the PS4 head. Imagine if we were sitting here right now on this podcast saying, Sean Layden's just replaced Phil Harrison instead of going to Tencent. They've bought a few more studios. So all the little stories of Embracer buying studios up over the last 2 years, all of them were Google instead. So now they've got a library. They've got a kind of collection of 10 plus studios, all working on different variety sizes of games. Cloud's better than ever. Cyberpunk was fantastic. Ubisoft are fully committed. It would be a very different world if they could just see it out and overcome that initial bump that they'd set themselves up with. But it's not.
For me, I think it would be better with someone else based, but that's in hindsight. But I don't like attacking individuals. I don't like seeing individuals get attacked, because if you don't know the full story, you don't know. We're never going to know how much control Phil Harrison ever had and how much he was handcuffed. So it's like, I don't think, from what I can tell, I don't think he did a good job leading Stadia. I don't think he understood what Stadia needed to be, how to drive it, how to get it in more people's hands. But it might not be. So I don't really like the personal attacks I've seen against him. I hope he stays at Google, because if he stays at Google, he probably won't end up in gaming anymore.
Can't hurt anyone else if he's still at Google. It's a bad sign whoever he joins next. If Boosteroid, Phil Harrison becomes head, he's like, you want to watch out.
If I was launching a new gaming service now, I might, and I needed someone to be the lead, like the figurehead, the leader for that project, I might consider interviewing him. But I definitely have some pretty interesting questions to ask him about his legacy with Google and PlayStation, etc. before I commit to it. Because in some ways he's got to that position because he must have some redeeming qualities as a leader.
Yes, I completely agree. He's one individual has probably been hamstrung by budget and what he's able to do and stuff. There's something to be said about...
Maybe he needed a Sean Layden or Reggie Fils-Aimé or someone in that ilk alongside him.
Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah. Well, that's why early
Or
doors.
maybe
when they
he had them people and they left.
Well, remember Jade Raymond, Shannon Studstill, industry veterans who knew it and were excited.
John Justice.
Yeah, they had a team. They had a world-class renowned team, and they let them all go less than a year in.
Yeah.
So if I was interviewing Phil, what I'd love to do is just plonk a Stadia controller in front of him on the desk in an awkward interview process and go, tell me about that. And then just sit back as the interviewer, twiddle a pen, and just be like, come on, tell me about that. Do you know when interviewers go like, can you think of a time you worked in a team and you teamwork or something, or you went above and beyond, like all those awkward
their classic questions.
Yeah, Phil, tell me about a team you shared success with a team. Anyway,
give me an example of when you showed initiative.
Yeah, exactly. But to kind of keep the bullet points ticking along then, that's the blog post in general. We've mentioned about the Stadia staff, obviously, wonderful stuff, wonderful work. We've spoken with many of them over the years, from engineers to marketing to having Grace on the CloudQuest Show to talk about her. And we've interacted with them plenty over the last years. Some of them reached out to us, some of them didn't. Some of them lurk in our very show. Some of them might even be in the chat now, so hello to you.
We do know there's people at Stadia who listen to our stuff because we've been told as much, but we can't say who they are. Sometimes we don't even know, and they're probably not even allowed to say. So,
well, that goes on to one of the things was, I think, early doors, the communication with the community. If you remember, we had a round table with the Stadia team about probably 2.5 years ago, I would say now, where ourselves and a bunch of other content creators were invited along to essentially talk about the platform, where it's going, our pros, our cons, what we could do better with the community.
When it first started coming under a bit of flack from content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they never did it again. Never did it again. Never reached out to us again.
I genuinely think after that we saw some improvement in the direction, but I think once Google threw in the towel, that was kind of it. It doesn't matter how good you are at your job if your boss is not giving you the resources to do it.
It very much was, I think, 2020. A decision was made, budgets were cut, and it just went down. But to all the Stadia staff out there, best of luck on your new adventures. Hopefully, and I mean, not even hopefully, you will find somewhere new and different and impressive, because again, it's a great thing to have on your CV, launching a brand new product into the world, and one that's it might not have been as successful as you wanted, but the technology does work and it will live on in some other shape and form. And like I said, Richie, immersive stream, funnily enough, I think that's going to be here for the future. I think it's only going to get better, and we are genuinely going to see companies utilize immersive stream in loads of ridiculous, pointless ways. Some good, some bad, but the tech works. You don't just throw that in the bin.
In the statement by Phil, I think that's what he means by commitment to gaming. It's probably immersive stream and probably the Google Play Store as well. But
imagine if Sega just relaunched.
It doesn't make sense. Stream. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. You've spent all the money developing this platform, this technology. It's arguably best in class. Mm-hmm. Maybe the servers could do with a bit of an upgrade. Maybe switch out the GPUs for something a bit beefier. But in terms of how it gets that stream to you, back to the server, and the level of latency and all that stuff, it's best in class from that I've experienced. Better than, I think, GeForce Now and better than Xbox. Although they might have higher graphical fidelity, in terms of how it feels to play, Stadia is the best, in my opinion. It doesn't make sense to just chuck that out at all.
Not at all. That was one of my big takes, was like the fact that come January it's just not going to be accessible. And I'm thinking, but there's nothing else runs as good. Like, we haven't had the luxury of testing out Amazon Luna yet, because for whatever reason, Amazon are taking their sweet ass time. I mean, you know what? That probably is a smart move. Like, get your studios in order, get your games in order, take your time, and then roll out slowly. But when I last used Xbox, xCloud Gaming, it wasn't as good. We've seen what PlayStation Cloud runs like. How many times during our Stray live stream I got kicked out of the game? 3 times in 2 hours?
Yeah.
And it takes ages to load up. Graphically it's choppy and stuff. And
we did a CloudQuest on it. The UI on PC is absolute garbage.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but
to the point where I don't actually use it. I've got my PS4 here, so if I'm using PlayStation Cloud Gaming, I'll go from a PS4 rather than a PC.
Yeah, but I think we can all agree that Stadia shook the industry enough to push cloud gaming on significantly over the last 3 years, and hopefully behind the scenes it still does great work. And I'd love to see a future where, even though Stadia won't live on, its kind of memory will exist in the form of some kind of big partnership. Like Nintendo, forget your Ubitus, it doesn't work, it's crap. Resident Evil Village runs terrible on my Switch, absolutely terrible in the demo. Some of the other stuff that's out and about, just partner with somebody and let this hardware live on. Because it works. It genuinely works so well.
I think probably next weekend we'll be recording a CloudQuest on, I think, immersive stream and what the future could mean for that now Stadia's gone.
Absolutely.
And I think I've got a few interesting, I've already started taking notes on a few companies where I think it could be really beneficial. So good stuff.
Yeah. So moving the conversation on a little bit then, after the back of the blog post, a lot of people quickly realised that when you head to the Stadia store, it's not there. It's gone. So not only do we get the blog, but immediately people going into the Stadia storefront to buy games, because, again, FIFA just launched. A couple of Atari games just dropped this past week. And then you go there and now you see the message, all grey, no colour. Stadia will wind down 18th of January 2023. The Stadia store is now closed, and you've got a little speech bubble with an exclamation mark. When I saw that, Richie, that was the kind of moment of like, oh shit for me. Like, I saw the blog post go up, but my immediate reaction was to head to the Stadia store and see if it was genuinely real, and seeing it all stripped back of all artwork, names, layout, and just a straight up blog. Bear in mind, one of the subjects on this week's show was going to be, it got a brand new UI interface this week, and it looks sleek as shit. It was tidy, it was smart. I was looking forward to getting on with it, playing with it, and talking about it on this week's show. And it's gone. And this is what this just shows you: the decision was made from high up, and the team knew nothing about it, because they were working on new features. I mean, we'll get in new features because it was teased at Gamescom as well. But everything was functioning until this went out.
Yeah, we should say that the UI update was like leaked on Reddit and was confirmed from Dan from Google.
It was rolling out
literally 3 days ago from the time of recording. Like this was an official update. It was going to happen. So that just goes to show you that the Stadia team were probably blindsided by this, or at least many of them.
Yeah, very few people will know. And I've seen, it's always a difficult one when it comes to business, because the reality is you can't just tell all of your staff immediately, because someone will leak it and then it gets to the press and the message isn't contained and it spreads like wildfire. So from a business standpoint, I get why they didn't tell everyone until very short turnaround time. 45 minutes before seems harsh, but in the world of redundancies and layoffs and job changes and acquisitions and mergers, this is how it has to go. Everything is kept under lock and key until it all goes live at the same time, because all it takes is one person to go, so you're telling me out of a job? Fuck you, I'm going to the press. And then everybody knows through rumour and suspicion, and it doesn't get the message out clearly. So no surprise yet. Staff are told, blog post goes out. Before people can scramble, it's out there from the official channels. It sucks. I get it sucks. I've been there myself.
There's no good way to do it. No. I don't think there's a single good way to walk into an office and tell your staff that they're getting made redundant. They might not actually be getting made redundant. They might get moved into different projects within Google, which I think is what Google tends to do. Mm-hmm. I heard somewhere, it's not verified, but I think they get like 90 days to find a new project within the Google ecosystem. Yeah,
there's usually like a transition window.
So they effectively get 3 months of pay to find a new job within Google or leave, which is not bad. But you're basically being told everything, all your hard work that you've been doing over the last couple of years, we're done with that. It sucks. There's absolutely no good way to do it.
No, not at all. And that goes for the Stadia team working on the UI and stuff. And the ironic thing is, we knew about features as well. Like, there was good stuff in the works. We had Yeez from the developer of 100 Days, the winemaking simulator. He mentioned at Gamescom he'd had a great meeting with Stadia, and we know from Gracie and some of the other members of the Stadia team, like they had about 10 plus people at Gamescom talking to developers about features and upcoming things, and there seemed to be a bit of excitement around what was coming on the horizon. And Peter Elst, he's still a senior software engineer at Google, he tweeted out, I don't know if you've seen this one, Richie. It's a weird experience starting your workday and realizing the feature you've been working on for 6 plus months and we're launching soon is no longer relevant. So there was a feature that was teased at Gamescom that had a lot of people excited, developers especially. The engineer team saying working on a feature for 6 plus months and it's about to launch. To have the rug pulled from under you, like, what was it? What was that feature that was getting everyone so hyped and we're never going to see?
I used to work in R&D for the company I work for now. So I have been on development projects where I've been working for 6 months on stuff and then it just never ended up seeing the light of day through no fault of my own. But I never lost my job. It wasn't like my boss came in and got, oh, by the way, the company's no longer doing this. Like this entire industry that you're working in, we're not going to do that anymore. Feel free to find a new job. But I have had projects cancelled that I've been working on.
Yeah, same.
That happens. That sometimes is what life in R&D is. You might work for 6 months on a project and then they go, actually, this doesn't make sense anymore, or yeah, it's taken too long, or whatever reason, or it's just we want something more important to come up, so we need you to move over to this, and then maybe you go back to it, and sometimes you just don't.
Yeah,
that is just life in R&D. Like, but as I said, it's not. I've never had the situation where my bosses went, "Yeah, we don't basically everything. The job we hired you to do is no longer there. Do you want another job within the company, or go find something else to do with your life?"
Yeah. It is. It generally sucks. In terms of the features as well, we know from Dylan, who's one of the developers from Q Games, so the guys who do the Pixel Junk series, which already that game is now stranded on the platform. So we've got Pixel Junk Raiders, Outcasters, Guilt still is exclusive on Stadia. I don't know what's happening with Guilt, because that's a phenomenal game, and I'm so surprised after nearly 3 years it's still not available anywhere else. These games are kind of just left stranded from January 18th, and we'll get into that, but talking about the features there, Richie, Dylan, who works at Q Games, he tweeted out saying 11 hours ago, saying the Stadia announcement wasn't too much of a surprise. The disappointment for me was the lack of the promised integration with YouTube. Imagine watching a game on there and pressing play and being able to play it in 10 seconds. That was the promise. Why I was on board never happened. To which Richard Brown replied, Richard Brown being a games industry veteran of 35 years who's worked at a bunch of different companies, he replied saying, it was actually shown to me working at the DICE Awards a few weeks back. So Google were actively out there on the cusp of touting these new features to industry veterans and professionals and developers, and again, none of these knew about it. The devs, the staff, it was so whatever's happened in the higher ups to suddenly go swing that axe, we're done. It's had a trickle-down effect that's impacted lots and lots of people who clearly didn't see it coming. Had their suspicions, but didn't see it coming.
I really feel for especially the indie developers, especially those who are like just like one or two people on the team and that's it. Because the more platforms you bring your game to, the more work it is for you. So if you're bringing it to Stadia and you're excited for the launch of your new game, you're getting close, and then you find out a lot of developers found out through, by the sounds of it, actually most developers, if not all of them, found out through the press that Stadia is done. Mm-hmm. So imagine you've been spent the last couple of years of your life working on this game that you're excited to get onto Google Stadia, and then you wake up one day and go, oh, by the way, the platform that you've effectively invested a lot of money into is gone. It's like, that's got to have huge ripple effects into what that games could be. So I'm really hoping, like we've mentioned Guilt, but a lot of these indie developers, a lot of these games that were coming to Stadia, I'm hoping other platforms pick them up and help them through this.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping Google actually go, you know what, we're going to give you guys some compensation. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your effort. Like,
Yeah.
because I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, especially hardworking developers who are passionate about making games that they're excited for us to play. Like,
Yeah, hopefully they'll all find a home. In the chat, we've got Tizorector saying Stadia paid for Guilt and own the IP, which I didn't know. I thought it was just a second party deal. I didn't think they'd actually bought it. Obviously, Tequila Works were the developers behind it, and they're very popular. But
they might do what they did with Jenny and Savage Planet, where effectively just hand the IP back.
yeah, I was going to say that. We know Jade Raymond, when she left, all of her kind of concept art and practices that have now become Haven Studios, owned by Sony. That's another ironic thing, is we're going to see the remnants of Stadia trickle throughout the industry for years to come, and whatever Haven produce, we're going to see that. Whatever Kojima produces, we're going to see that. There is cloud deal with Xbox now. And yeah, Guilt and Outcasters from Splash Damage and a couple of others. I'd love to just see them find a home. Like, could you imagine if Outcasters just went free on PlayStation Plus?
That'd be great. It's
like,
a great game. I think the biggest problem with the game is it never really got the content support, but then it didn't really have the players. So if it finds a home on like PlayStation or Xbox, it could be the next Fall Guys.
Yeah, if it had that support, it adds that vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we thoroughly enjoyed Guilt. It was one of our first few playthroughs on the channel that we did, and great little horror story, and yeah, just
it's
kind of that.
Actually, Guilt has a special place because this was in the early days. We were planning to do like pre-recorded full playthroughs, like edited stuff, and Guilt was kind of the last one we did before like we decided to switch over and focus in other areas, focus more on like live streams and our podcasts instead.
Absolutely.
So Guilt will always hold a place in like our channel's history.
Definitely. Looking at the trailer that I've just played as well, it does actually say at the end of the trailer, Guilt and Tequila Works, blah, blah, blah. Guilt and related logos, characters' names, and distinctive likenesses are all exclusive property of Tequila Works and under exclusive license. Doesn't say Stadia. Yeah. So, again, we digress, but hopefully they'll all be able to find a home elsewhere, and hopefully they'll flourish and do better, and we might see sequels and stuff like that. But games are one thing. They're not coming. It's sad they're going to go elsewhere.
It's the people I think I care about.
Yeah, the people and the devs, because there's a lot of indie studios that have came out and basically said, hey, we were going to be launching a game on Stadia in the coming weeks and months, and what the hell happens to us? Because we don't know. And then, weirdly enough, when I was listening to the Stadia Source Roundtable last night, those guys were talking about the news and working their way through it. We would have had more news articles need to be written off all of these games that are supposedly coming. So one of them was Old School, who I've never heard of before. They tweeted out saying, we're going to be announcing Luxor Evolved on Stadia platform next week. Might as well announce that it's coming to Xbox, Switch and PlayStation early 23. We wish our friends at Google all the best. And we're working to make it right for us. So I don't know what Luxor Evolved is. I've never heard of it before. But there's loads of little like kind of developers that have came out and said, yeah, we were working on a title for Stadia. I've been working on one for 4 months. Our work's just basically going to be thrown in the bin because there's nowhere for us to publish it because the storefront's closed. And then that brings me back to the weird nature we had, Richie, that FIFA launched. Like a brand new AAA game just launched the day prior. I hadn't bought it because I was waiting for the standard edition.
Technically, it launched the day after because
Yes.
it was a pre-order. You got early access with your pre-order.
Absolutely, and it's so weird. Dean in the chat
Hot
says,
Wheels is the best example. It launched the day of.
if you look at the
Here's a new pro game. Store's dead.
the Hot Wheel Twitter account actually tweeted out in the morning saying, we're thrilled to have our game, go enjoy whatever, and then later on the evening retweeted it and basically said like, oh, how bad, like what more can we say for that one? It's so weird. I'm sure Google legally will probably have to compensate all these. I'm sure they've got things in the works for it because I can't imagine
their lawyers are going to be working overtime to kind of figure out, and their accountants, and they'll be working overtime for probably months to figure this all out.
Absolutely. Dean in the chat says, "Is Journey to the Savage Planet on other platforms?" It was already on other platforms before they acquired Typhoon Studios. So yes, it was on PS4 and Xbox, and then it was moved to Stadia. Then the studio was unceremoniously shut down and sold off, and they relaunched. Is it Raccoon Studios? I think they rebranded as, essentially. But they were allowed to take all their assets. So again, the one credit I will always give to Google is that when they've made all these terrible decisions, quite frankly, they've always been quite gracious in letting the concept art, the games, the IP go with the people who own them.
They've never held the art to ransom.
Yeah, they've never been like, we're shutting this down, but we're also going to randomly cling on to this IP or this technology. Yeah. And again, whatever we see from Haven with PlayStation, can't wait for it. Whatever Kojima's thing looks like. We saw The Quarry launch this year with Supermassive Games. That was going to be a Stadia exclusive. So if you want to go play a great Stadia horror game, The Quarry is available on PlayStation, Xbox right now. But yeah, the games are just so weird, Richie. So I was looking forward to playing FIFA from this weekend onwards. Can't do that anymore because I can't buy the game.
FIFA was literally originally in the schedule for today, but we had to take it off because neither of us have it.
Yeah, and we've put in Hot Wheels because I woke up on Thursday morning with the news that Hot Wheels was in the Stadia store. It was the Game of the Year edition, and it was free. And I thought, fantastic, we've got a kart racer style game, online play with the community. Can't wait to play it. Looks great. A Game of the Year worthy in some outlets for some reason, but especially because it's free on PlayStation Plus this month, but it's just the standard edition. So Stadia has the Game of the Year edition with all the DLC, which is better than PlayStation. You can play it anywhere, and yet you can't actually go in and buy it now. But if you were a Pro member, you could claim it. So I got a £60 game for free on Thursday, and then now no one else can buy it, and the store's going to go on in January. I can't play FIFA with my Razer Kishi, which I've been doing for the last year and a half. Disappointing, because that's how I love to play FIFA now. And then, weirdly enough, we got 5-6 Pro games that launched on the 30th of September, not the 1st of October. So we got our Pro games early. You can still claim them through a specific link. I just don't know. Like, what does it... I'm guessing we get no Pro games for November and December and January, right?
Yeah, I'd assume that's the case.
Because devs will pull that game, right? You'd think?
Yeah, can't say for definite. If there's games out, they've already got the deal in place. But I wouldn't expect any more games to be launched on the platform.
I mean, the storefront's gone, isn't it? So
yeah,
what they could do with Pro is give the devs a ton of money to thank them for their work and their time. Launch the games into Pro. Make us happy for the last few months. Like if they turn around and say, "Oh, there's 8 games free with Pro because they were scheduled to come out of the store, but because you can't buy them, here they are for free." Give the devs a big payoff. The game's done. It's finished. It's ready to go. Like, just make, you know what I mean? Make the transition as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Just pay whoever needs to be paid. Give us some more games just to enjoy the platform for the final few months. And then when you pull the plug, we enjoyed what we could with it almost.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about the devs and the transition, I think we need to shout out a couple of the devs. I think I want to specifically shout out the devs of Ember because these were the first people to do it.
Uh-huh.
A lot of devs are starting to come out saying, if you've bought games on Stadia, we will let you transition this to a different platform. Obviously, whatever developers and publishers decide and how that's going to happen, a lot of this is up in the air. But I mean, I already have my Steam key from the Ember devs that because I had Ember on Stadia Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I contacted them. You can go through their Discord set and Discord. If you need to find it, just go to Twitter and find the developers. You'll find it easy enough. There's instructions on their Discord to tell you how to claim it. You basically just send them an email, a few screenshots, and then within a few hours, I had the Steam key to play Ember.
Yeah,
on Steam.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the devs who are actually making it so these games aren't homeless. Like helping people who love these games continue to play them. Ubisoft's another one. They're letting you transition games over. Again, that's a bigger deal. How do they handle that? There's probably more moving parts with Ubisoft, specifically because there's a lot more games involved.
Yeah, there's going to be loads of stuff to figure out. Ubisoft, as you mentioned, they did message again. Loads of developers, news journalists, and stuff were all surprised. They shared the different things. One of the ones that, as you said, that did come from Ubisoft is Ubisoft, one of the biggest supporters of Stadia, and we knew something was up when Mirage wasn't coming, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and there was confusion around that, and it might have come from the higher ups, but essentially Ubisoft tweeted
I now
out.
think that it's probably Ubisoft probably weren't aware, but Google didn't push that deal.
I think Ubisoft high ups might have known.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's all money wasted and spent in developing the game if it wasn't going to come. And now we know why it was coming to Luna and not because this is why. But they tweeted out saying, while Stadia will shut down on January 18th, 2023, we're happy to share that we're working to bring the games you own on Stadia to PC through Ubisoft Connect. We'll have more to share regarding specific details as well as the impacted Ubisoft Plus subscribers at a later date. So essentially, Richie, I'm guessing that means for the games we've bought, such as Rainbow Six Siege, I've bought, I think, 1 or 2 Assassin's Creed titles. By the sounds of it, they're going to look at working at giving us a PC version. That reads as? Because it doesn't specifically say save files. It actually says the games you own.
Well, yeah, the save files with Ubisoft are already... With Ubisoft Connect, they're already wherever you need them.
Some of them, not all.
One thing I will say to people, actually, now while we're talking about Ubisoft, is if you want to keep your save file, make sure before January, probably do it as soon as you can, open the games and make sure that save is synced with Ubisoft Connect, because it's not always a guarantee that it's not a sync. Sometimes you have to manually do it.
I had that with
Watch Dogs. Make sure you do it.
So when we played Watch Dogs Legion the other day, I platinumed Watch Dogs Legion on my PS5. And yet, when we booted Watch Dogs Legion up, it acted as though I'd never played the game before in my life. So, definitely go in and sync up your save files if you're that bothered. Interesting enough to see if I get... Because I'm going to get we'll get into the refunds, but I'm just going to get a random copy of Assassin's Creed Origins on Ubisoft PC, maybe?
Hjorvar Ingi, sorry if I completely butchered your name there.
You did.
Asks in the chat, do you think they will bring Baldur's Gate free? I think that's what you mean by BG free, not to the other consoles. Larry, I've just been looking. Larry and I've said, hey, Stadia players, as we understand it, you'll still be able to play Baldur's Gate free until January the 18th, when the service officially shuts down. According to their FAQ, Google intends to refund game purchases by that time. It is available on PC. I don't know if they'll be pushing it anywhere else. They're not saying anything at the moment if they will or not. I hope they do, personally. It doesn't look like that's one where they'll just auto-transition, because I don't think we should be expecting devs to auto-transition, because Google are giving you a refund in the end of the day. So this is why I want to praise the devs that are, but I don't want to feel entitled to developers go, you can just bring it over. Because in the end of the day, I am getting a refund for Baldur's Gate free.
Yeah.
So I might use part of my refund to buy it on PC.
Yeah, there's so
Once
many...
it finally comes out of early access and they stop deleting save files.
And this is why, Richie, I think we have plenty of material for a Sounds of Stadia podcast for the weeks to come, because we're going to see a lot of fallout from all different devs and outcomes and people, and no doubt there's going to be journalists who will speak to Stadia staff, and they're going to get stories from behind the scenes. So there's plenty of content to break down cover. As you'll see with this show, we've barely kind of scratched the surface on a lot of it. As the dust settles, we will know a lot more. But yeah, Larry, and I've just got that up as well. It's a bit odd because it's not available on consoles. That is a very unique scenario where you can't just go and play elsewhere.
It's the unique nature of Stadia being able to handle PC gaming.
Like a hybrid,
This style of game is very focused on like mouse and not even mouse and keyboard, basically just mouse for a lot of like that Baldur's Gate series. You can literally play through all the Baldur's Gate series with just a mouse. You don't even need a keyboard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe they'll bring it to other consoles, maybe other cloud things. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head if it's available on like GeForce Now. That might be a solution. To the problem, so you pick up and say Steam or Epic Game Store, wherever it is available on PC, and then you get it through the cloud through something else. It's Steam and GOG. I've just checked. But yeah, mate, I don't know really. We'll see.
It's very interesting. I'd love to know just how the like let's face it, it's because it's been closed down. As with kind of like redundancy packages through business, like Google will have had to ring fence a certain amount of cash to fix all these issues that have just came about because of this. And the developers, like EA, is surely going to be wanting a big cut for FIFA, which basically has had one day in the sun and then it's unable to purchase anymore. Like, quite frankly, I'd still buy FIFA just to play it through till January, because January, February time's usually when I drop off playing it, so I'd get my money's worth.
Well, as I said earlier, I actually had it pre-ordered. I cancelled the pre-order and ordered it on PlayStation. If there was a guarantee that I could just move my save files across, I probably would have kept it on Stadia till next year.
And then moved.
And then when I get my refund, then I'll move. But because I can't guarantee my save files come across, I felt that it's made the smarter move for me was to just, as a career mode purist, like I sometimes I've got like save files on pretty much every single FIFA I've bought in the last like 5 years, which I've just continued jump back into occasionally throughout the entire lifespan of the game. So I do want to keep my save files, and it's frustrating that they've always been a cap on how many different career mode save files you can have. I want infinite, damn it.
This FIFA was going to be crossplay as well, right?
Yes.
So it was going to do infinitely better than last year's iteration because you could play with other players. And it's like, the
dream of FIFA on Stadia was finally about to be realised.
I actually had an argument with someone on YouTube because he was being a dick, quite frankly, about... usually I don't get drawn to comments, and our viewers and listeners will know the reason our Twitter feed's usually quite friendly is because when we don't get dragged into that social media craziness. But with this one, it was someone talking about Stadia closing down, and the conversation went along the lines of it's playing it in multiple places. And they were saying something about like games in a subscription plan, and I tried to do that foolish thing where I tried to correct them and say, well, actually, you could always just buy games on Stadia. And my example was FIFA was £10 cheaper, and you could play it on any device. And he said something about, but you get the cloud version only, and you don't own it. And my response to that was like, well, one, it's the same version pretty much, and I can play it on multiple devices wherever I want. And his response was, you definitely, what was it? You definitely lost then or something, or there's no saving you. And I was like, so because I can play this same game on multiple devices aside from just the TV in my living room, I'm at a loss for that.
The thing is, if you buy a physical game, you don't own the game. You own a license to play that game. That's how it works. The ownership is retained by the publishers.
We know this, but it was just I got drawn in.
Yeah, if the publisher decides, nah, we're not going to... Obviously, with the physical media, you can always just plug it in the console, and assuming no day one patch was needed to make it work, which is very rarely the case nowadays, then you could play the game. Regardless of what the publisher decides to go forward. But going forward, like, I mean, with day one patches, like, you probably need that day one patch to make it viable. So if the publisher decides to just pull it, even with physical media, this is why I'm okay with like cloud gaming being the future, because, well, reality is you don't own any of the games that you own. Like,
but again, I just look at other industries and just think, well, the Netflix is the same. Again, all of our viewers and listeners will know that. Infinite Doc in the chat says, they're probably a forever physical bro who was super annoying. And I got that because his follow-up comment was, as long as you know your opinion is in the minority, then we can settle this here. And I was like, you're just being a straight-up dick. So I just give him a thumbs up. I thought, like, it would have been another finger, but I just give him a thumbs up and thought, I'm not going to continue this conversation, because if me enjoying this game in multiple different places is somehow a detriment to you, then you're a sad individual.
Wars. Yeah, it's the console wars, which we've always avoided. I mean, we'll compare and contrast different platforms, but the tagline for our entire channel is play wherever makes you happiest.
I was like, I don't understand how me playing FIFA on my phone is somehow detrimental to you enjoying FIFA on your console, but he somehow didn't like the thought that I could play anywhere beyond just at home. So either way, we digress on that one. Some of the games I am kind of just like disappointed by is, we said on last week's show, the Cyberpunk DLC. I was going to jump back into Cyberpunk and enjoy that story content. Now I'm going to have to buy it on PS5, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was not ready to jump back in yet, but I was very much... We literally have an episode of CloudQuest went live yesterday about Cyberpunk.
The rise and fall.
Yeah. It's like, cheers, Google. Like, and today we're going to show you there's an early access as part of our stream today that will go live next week for non-members, comparing the business plans of cloud gaming. Cheers, Google.
I mean, you know what? It will stand in time. So yeah, we did basically a cloud gaming review of 2022, thinking it's about the time of the year where we can sit back and we can analyze Google, we can analyze Stadia, it's Google Stadia, Luna, GeForce Now and stuff, and kind of theorize which is the best business model. And I know a lot of people, our viewers and listeners, are in the kind of the same boat. And Dre actually saying in the chat right now, one of our other wonderful Helix heroes, I'm doing a puzzle now, trying so many things to be able to play everywhere. GFN, xCloud, Moonlight, all able to replace Stadia. I've never heard of Moonlight. Boostroid and stuff. And you're completely right. And I think especially if outside of the US where you don't have Luna as an immediate option, I'm finding it difficult to think, actually, the a la carte nature of Stadia and buying games is what made it so unique, and it got so much shit for it early doors. But I loved having the option to just buy the game and own it in perpetuity for as long as, well, until January 18th, I guess. But you know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said about, I know Game Pass is there, great, but games get taken away from Game Pass. Luna isn't a thing in the UK yet, so we can't really attest to it that much. GFN, we've said before, it's a utility service. I don't have a Steam library, bar one or two titles, so signing up to GFN just means I then need to go buy everything again elsewhere. Whereas,
I have actually just updated my library in GFN. I logged in for the first time probably about 2 years to my GFN account, update my Steam library, and it's mainly old stuff. Like, I haven't bought anything on Steam in years.
So I'm just kind of like at a loss, like I'm sure many of you are, just like what to do, because I had this fantastic library of like 200. I could play over 200 games with one click, and it would boot up immediately. It would play instantly on any device I've got. And quite frankly, now I just don't have that choice beyond January, because all these games I had, like if I want to play Cyberpunk now, I need to go buy it elsewhere, albeit I'm sure at a cheaper price, and it might run better. But I'm going to miss having like my long Richie, whatever that long shitty UI tile was, where I had to scroll for infinity to find the game I wanted to play. I'm going to miss it. Yeah. I want to miss it.
I think what I might do is in our Discord server, I'm going to set up a channel for like what people want to suggest we play for live streams, games on Stadia, because the reality is there's a lot of games that we own in Stadia that we've acquired through either we've bought them, or sometimes developers have been kind enough to give us codes, or we've literally got them on Stadia Pro over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Some of these games, come end of January, we're not going to be able to play again. That's going to be it, or unless we buy them elsewhere. So we maybe need to start using through our Discord, going like, what games do you want us to play with you while we still can? Yeah. Before we have to really pivot away from Stadia and as part of our live streams going forward.
Yeah. And we should point out as well, we've not really discussed it fully, Richie, but my intention is on Stadia's last day, I just want to stream until it's killed. I'm going to take the day off work. I want to just get on with you guys, the community. I want to play games until an error message shows up saying cannot connect, or the storefront just disappears and uninstalls itself from my PC somehow.
Until Phil Harrison comes round and just takes your controller out of your hands and go, no more.
Give me that back. Yeah, until that day. So I hope you do all join us. But yeah, we'll just stream and play games until it stops. Because it's the 18th of January. So I say we go live on the 17th. We go to midnight. And then we just see how it goes. And we'll just ride this out. Similar to The Last of Us, Richie. We get bitten. We'll just lose our minds together. That's what we'll do with you, the wonderful community. And then we'll melt our Stadia controllers into a big pot and make a shrine of Phil Stadia.
I'm not doing that. It's a perfectly good PC controller, wired, admittly. I know a lot of people have been asking about like getting the Bluetooth activated, because it does have the technology in it.
It has the technology. I mean, it's got phenomenal technology. But yeah, I have. Yeah. And that's that. You know what? I was relieved in a way. I ordered my black controller 2 weeks ago, remember? So I got the set before it was, otherwise I would have been scalping one off eBay.
I might be scalp one, actually, because I don't have a black one. Just the set. It's a part of history. Like you will be, or I right now, I'm one of the rare few people who has one of every Stadia controller. Founders, Premier, Wasabi, and Black. And it's like, oh man, like they're just a piece of history, unless they do a Bluetooth update, because I think we've said time and time again about what they got right. The controller is one of the best controllers It's the most comfortable controller. It's basic in terms of functionality. It doesn't have things like haptic feedback, HD rumble, adaptive triggers, and anything. But if you just want a very basic controller that is more comfortable than any other controller I've ever held, including the DualSense, which came out after it, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
They've got their ergonomics 100% spot on. I think the D-pad's great. It has that nice clickiness for indie games where you can get nice and good precision, which a lot of modern controllers don't have. The trigger's a bit loose for my taste, but
now you know Stadia's gone, Richie. Come January, you could just pull it apart and customize it and tweak it and do whatever.
Yeah.
Try and reskin it somehow. Eric in the chat says, I want one of the clear controllers they gave to employees. You're completely right, Eric. That's the only one I'm missing. Yeah. If I ever see one on eBay, I know one on eBay sold for like $900, didn't it? A few months back.
There might be some disgruntled developer who just goes, sod this, I just want to get rid of it.
Well, if you are a disgruntled developer out there, hit me up. CyberChris2077. I will acquire that Stadia controller with my stimulus check.
I hope that some of the developers who were there at launch who got one kind of go, you know what, the ride may be over. It sucks that it's gone.
I don't think it was devs. I think it was the Stadia team got them for the launch.
Yeah, I mean, when I say devs, I mean the developers of Stadia.
Okay.
Developers
and, like the engineers and such.
Yeah. I hope they kind of go, you know what, this is a nice memento for my time there now.
Mm-hmm. We should reach out to Grace again and see if she wants to just come back on and talk about
the problem
Stadia.
with that is I don't know if the legal
it's gone
side things.
Once it's gone in January, it doesn't exist.
Google still exists. And
maybe. We'll see.
With NDRs and stuff
we'll see.
We can reach out, but none of the Stadia team might be able.
Well, if you're watching this
without getting sued, so
get us out. I mean, I don't think they check it realistically, but and we wouldn't go too much into depth. We're just curious about a few things they can say, because obviously, I'm sure again, Jason Schreier over at where's he at now? Bloomberg. I'm sure he's going to do some digging and get some wonderful nuggets of information to break into it. But controller, do something, please. I would love to see these utilised in some way, shape or form. PC's fine, but hopefully not wired, because as you said, Richie, they have the Bluetooth functionality, so just do a patch update. Do
a firmware update, switch that on and just go, right, there you go.
Right, so bringing this round, Richie. We're not rounding out the show. There's still plenty to go into. Thank you again to all the chat who are tuning in and watching along live. Thank you to everyone who was listening and watching on Monday when this goes up on our usual feeds. There was an FAQ that came with the kind of Stadia blog post. Just to run through a few things in case you didn't know or you're watching along and thinking, I know Stadia's closing, but what does that mean for me? The Stadia announcement says, on 29th of September 2022, Google announced that the Stadia servers will be turning off on 18th of January 2023. The following article includes and answers some common questions. We'll be updating the information as it becomes available. Please check back for updates before contacting support. So don't go chasing up Google support, because they're not going to have any additional information, because no doubt they found out on Thursday along with everybody else. So until the official scripts are written up and typed up for them to use as answers, don't go chasing it and wasting your time. Question 1 is, how long will I be able to play games on Stadia? We will be leaving the Stadia platform and game servers online until 18th of January, so you can continue to play your games in your library. So essentially, boys and girls, fill your boots, do what you can. I've seen a lot of people, Richie, kind of just find it hard to boot up Stadia and play games knowing that it's gone.
Yeah,
like there's just
kind of emotionally checked out already.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's kind of probably like, I don't want to make it sound too morbid, but if you know someone's on like life support, which it literally is on life support now, and you know the date it's going to get switched off, you kind of just like, there's nothing you can do. It's inevitable, but you can't help but feel sad. You want to spend time with them, I'm sure, but at the same time, there's nothing you can do. It is getting shut off on the 18th of January. Unless Tencent swoops in and saves it. Which, you know what? I give Tencent shit, but if they did that... Because one of the stories on this week's show, Richie, was going to be the Saudi investment fund, ready to drop apparently 17 billion in the games industry, and we're going to talk about it on Talking the PS. So hang around until 5 p.m. UK time. We'll be talking about it. But yeah, this massive oil-rich company or investment fund are apparently ready to dip into the games industry and triple, quadruple down by spending billions of dollars. You never know. They might buy Ubisoft. They might buy Square. They might buy technology from Google, but I don't know how well Google get along with Tencent. It's a whole thing, but we'll talk about it on Talking to PS. But again, just the thing that could potentially have happened. Phil in the chat saying, I'm finding the emotion of switching on Stadia difficult. It's no surprise. It is weird.
For me, it's one of them. I'm in a weird place with Stadia because the only things I've been playing on Stadia outside of live streams is literally FIFA. And as I, again, said, I have FIFA getting delivered for PS5 today. So that FIFA 22 the game's run its course for me. So right now it's like, outside of live streams, I don't know what I'm going to be playing on Stadia. Maybe I will jump back into Cyberpunk at some point, probably like just as a kind of nostalgia trip.
Yeah.
But I think my current game is like on PlayStation. So it's like, that's where my time's been spent in gaming.
Yeah, there's a few, I think, for old time's sake that I'd like to go, but I think we should do like a grid thing, a Wreckfest thing.
That's what I was saying earlier. I think we should put out to our Discord over the next like few months and like going, what games do you want to play with us kind of like before these go away?
Yeah, because we've still got a good couple of weeks. Like, you've got all of October, November, December.
Basically 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. So that's like a good 12 plus live streams with you. So as we make the pivot towards whatever next, join us. Because, what we think, Richie, because again, the next question on the FAQ was, will all games work as expected during these times? Answer.
We have been warned they may not.
Well, yes, the answer is we anticipate that there will be some gameplay issues during this period, especially any games requiring commerce, but the majority of games should continue to work normally. And I immediately
this is down to the publishers. Some publishers might just switch off the tap. Others might go, you know what, I've seen some publishers publicly say, we're supporting it to the end. And thank you for that.
Absolutely. I did see a screenshot of someone this morning saying Destiny wouldn't let them into the main thing, which is like, if Destiny goes like literally the next day, because you've got to imagine there's some kind of funding required to run games, right?
Destiny, and I saw the devs talk at Bungie saying how much like they kind of seemed gutted themselves, like, because they were saying like how much Stadia helped them throughout the pandemic, transitioning from work from home, in terms of developing for Destiny. Yeah, so it's not just.
They said it wouldn't happen without. Apology, everyone. I'm booting up Destiny now just to see if it does work.
I'm doing the same, actually.
Yeah, everyone's getting the noise, though. So we've got some big, emphatic orchestral noise playing right now over the chat. Yes, let's go. Let's just have a look live on the show right now. Sign up.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we jumped in Destiny. Live from the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Destiny 2.
First time we played Destiny 2 on the Sounds of Stadia podcast.
It is, yeah. After 158 weeks, it's the first time we've actually booted up again. Should we just start playing games, Richie? We are doing it all day. Yeah. Of course, I joke. Let's get through all these notices that I've not done in a long time. But yeah, if we see them start to drop off, it'll be a shame, but I completely understand it. I mean, it seems to be okay for me so far.
Yeah, I seem to be in my account. My characters are there. All
right, I'll leave Richie to do the survey work.
I'm gonna close it off as once I'm basically loaded into a world.
Into a world. It seems to be okay, so maybe I just seen that as a screenshot. But again, we just don't know. Now the news is out there. If I'm a developer and it costs me X amount to keep working on patches and stuff, that's all getting done. And doesn't it just go to show, in a weird way, Richie, we've had for the last several weeks we've been complaining about dev support and updates not coming and DLC not coming and patches not coming. And then now we just suddenly get this news. It's almost like, this is why. It's like chicken and the egg. Like, you didn't support the games, you didn't get the games, and now it looks like for the next 3 months, games are just going to slowly but surely fall off if they require support. Wreckfest only just got its seasonal content update 3-4 months later, And then now if you're a dev working there, like, why would you bother? Because it's wasted.
Well, the interesting thing about Destiny as well is that the basic game of Destiny is completely free to play in Google Stadia. You could just, I want to play Destiny. I don't own a games console. I have a Chromebook and a mouse. I can play Destiny. And yes, I am in game.
And yeah, you mentioned a good point with the Bungie devs coming out saying like Stadia helped us through lockdown keep Destiny up and running. And they said, like, I think it was one of the Verge articles or someone, I can't remember who it was. The headline was like, Stadia never mattered or something. And it was screw you. Like, if you're gonna pile on like that. And then loads of people came on the defense and said, actually, it did matter to a lot of devs, a lot of employees, a lot of people, a lot of players. And that's what I've been kind of tweeting on social media to a lot of news outlets covering it, basically saying, throughout all this, the one thing is, remember, there is still a small but passionate community who've now lost their kind of talisman in a way.
Yeah.
And you've got devs who, rightly or wrongly, have said, like, yeah, it helped us out a lot. And Bungie, PlayStation, if they're smart, I would love them to... Because remember, before Sony acquired Bungie were looking to work with Google and Immersive Stream on some kind of standalone Destiny feature. I would love that relationship to continue. Now Stadia is not a thing. It's not competition for Sony. So why don't Bungie launch Destiny 2 as its own standalone thing? Play Destiny wherever, because so many gamers I've seen tweet and post about saying, I play Destiny's grind on the move thanks to Stadia. I get my weekly draft or whatever it is on Stadia while I'm at work or on my lunch break or not able to access the TV. And you now can't
jump
do
into
it.
my PC or PS5
and pick up where I left off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's just gone. That's gone come January. You can play Destiny 2. Destiny 2 doesn't run on the Steam Deck. It's blocked out by Bungie's security protocol for cheaters. So the only way you can play it on the Steam Deck is through Stadia. And I've seen loads of people, journalists included, saying, damn, that's where I got my Destiny fix. The next question on the FAQ is, what about my game progress? Can I take my game progress to another platform? And they've said, while that may be possible for some games, like Ubisoft Plus, cross-progression on other platforms, unfortunately for the majority of games, won't be possible. And Gandara in the chat mentions a great point. Feel sorry for the fella who lost 6,000 hours of Red Dead 2. That's, of course, Colour TV, yeah. He made his sole channel was around Red Dead content. He's got thousands upon thousands of hours locked. And Rockstar have no way of basically making his save. And I've seen some people say... You can upload it and do that, but he's on about his online profile. He's not on about his single-player campaign. He's on about his online profile.
You can download all your Stadia data through Google's Takeout, but there's absolutely no guarantee that anything in there will be transferable to other platforms. Some devs, I think, seem like they're looking to try and find ways to help people transition over to other platforms.
Yeah.
But in some of it, you may just have to go, this sucks, but that's all you can't. I hope like online games like Red Dead, that feels like something that Rockstar could probably find a way to transfer online profiles. I know Bungie, when first launched on Stadia, they did have a thing where you could actually carry your this I think was before I got full crossplay. You could carry your save across. So you didn't have to restart. Yeah. So there is potential ways and means, but it'll come down to the individual developers and publishers to implement.
Some have already tweeted out saying we'll do our best and we'll work on it. Some others won't. But I guess, again, this is the news that we're going to just see fall out. I did see places like Games Radar and stuff pick up on this story. I actually saw is annoying as it's a gaming lad Bible thing about the story, and it was like, oh, it's interesting. I think there's Cull, someone we've actually like had conversations with in the past, and been in content together with like Super Stadia Saturdays and stuff, and to see him have an article written up about him on like news pages that I follow and like was like really kind of like, oh, cool. Well, like it's took 3 years and it's took the worst case of scenarios, but we're actually starting to see our fellow Stadians across the world actually get recognition for for the worst of things, but it's a long time coming. Moving on to the next one, the big one, I guess, for all of us, which I can't believe we've got an hour and a half into the show without even getting to. Will I get a refund? What is available for refund? And the answer is we will be offering refunds to all Stadia hardware purchases, Stadia Controller, Founders Edition, Premier Edition, and the Play and Watch with Google TV packages made through the Google Store, and software transactions, games and add-on purchases through the Stadia Store. Stadia Pro subscriptions are not eligible for a refund. However, you can continue playing your games in Pro without further charges until the final wind-down date. So, things to break down from that, Richie. It sounds like Stadia Pro is just going to be free until January now.
Yeah, it seems to be uncertain if you're... The wording I saw before was if you already had an active Stadia Pro account.
Yeah, you can't sign
up. Yeah, you can't sign up. So if you don't have one, I think it's unlikely you'll be able to get your games that you had on Stadia Pro back. That maybe just you done with Stadia Pro, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's how I read
if you have an active one, your library's still there till January.
In terms of the actual refund, though, this is the one point for me that's kind of... It's the silver lining of it all, is that it absolutely sucks. We know this sucks. It's gonna get crapper as we get closer to January, and the reality of it, it's just going to get turned off at one point. But I will... Honestly, am I getting some echo from you somewhere? I'm getting some echo from somewhere. I don't know why.
You shouldn't be.
I'm getting a little echo in my own. It might be in my own ears, actually, through these. The blow was definitely softened by the fact that they immediately, right off the bat, said, look, we're shutting it down. However, we are offering refunds for all hardware and software, which I mentioned it earlier in the show. Google will have ring-fenced a little bit of money. Well, a little bit of money. A lot of money.
A lot.
But I gotta say...
They've done the maths. I know there's a lot of people asking for like refund on Stadia Pro. I don't think it's got, no matter how much pressure you put on, I don't think it's going to happen, because Google have sat down and done the maths and probably went, we can't afford to refund everyone's Stadia Pro.
Even then,
where with the games and hardware we can.
Even then, Stadia Pro, the terms and conditions of the Pro subscription are always you're signing up to a 30-day subscription model and you can cancel any time. So I think the nature of Pro being subscription, it's like if Netflix went, like you're signing up to that 30 days at a pop. So because it's on such a short-term contract, why they've got no legal reason why they would need to go beyond 30 days to do it. And the fact that
they have no legal reason to refund anything.
Well, that's the big thing, and I think this is why it softens the blow a lot.
It's a PR. This is purely, I think, a PR move from Google when they went, we're killing this. It's going to look bad. We've got a reputation for killing services. We need to try and smooth this out. If we give some sort of refund, it doesn't look, this is just horrendous. And it stops the articles about Google. Google took thousands, probably took millions of
Stadia Play
billions
spent
$3,000 out of people's pockets, and just went, you gone.
Yeah, I think it's risk mitigation in terms of backlash, because I tell you what, I'm not happy with this news. But if the fact that I knew I pissed away hundreds of pounds over 3 years and I wasn't seeing a penny of it back, that would have been harder to swallow.
As much as it sucks the platform's going away and I wish it stayed, the refund is kind of nice, because there's a lot of games I bought in the last 3 years which I'll never play again, and I'm getting a full refund at the cost value of that. So this is money back in my pocket. It's like, imagine if you bought a game, like a physical game for PlayStation 5, and 3 years later you went back to the shop and handed it back in, and they're giving you your 70 quid back. Yeah,
it's unheard of, really.
Yeah, no, they'll probably give you a tenner. Because they'll only be able to sell it for 20.
Yeah,
so it's like,
if I took my copy of FIFA 21 down to CEX or Game in the UK and went, can I trade this copy in, please? I'd probably
can. That'll be £5, please. You probably have to pay them.
I think you'd get a quid. I think you get £1.
No, I'm saying you'd have to pay them.
All right, okay, yeah.
Stop. We can't pay you anything for it because we can't sell it, but we'll charge you a stocking fee.
Exactly. However, looking at the numbers, I think I paid $59.99 for FIFA 22. So that's 60 quid I'm getting back for last year's version of FIFA. 50 quid for Cyberpunk. 60 quid for Marvel's Avengers. Assorted Assassin's Creeds. 65 quid for Resident Evil Village. Remember, I got a free Premier Edition with Cyberpunk and Resident Evil Village as well. So the fact that the blow is going to be softened so much by come January. We should all have payouts of, for most of us, for us committed Stadia fans, hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars. Which
I estimate mine's over 1,000.
I think roughly mine's, because again, you've got to remember we've had a few free codes along the way from developers and such.
I'll admit, over the last 18 months, I haven't bought that many games in Stadia, largely because the games I wanted to play in Stadia just didn't come.
Yeah, same. There are a few things I'm glad I'm getting refunds for, like where I did first looks for the channel and then I've never played them since the first look. I think Chorus, I'm getting 35 quid back for that. Serious Sam 4, I'm getting 30 quid back for that. And and then I paid
full price for Doom Eternal, and ended up it just didn't click for me at the time. I always intended to go back to it, but never did.
So
I paid full price.
It is good, and again, I think they've done it, as you said, to mitigate the backlash, because there would be so many stories of people out there. If you think Colour losing his 6,000 hours in Red Dead Redemption sucks, imagine if you spent £3,000 in real world money and it's all just gone come January.
Yeah.
And all you've got is these illustrious paperweights kicking around. I think we're all expecting a good chunky payout for it. The Stadia stimulus checks, as it's came to be known. I think it was Brian at the Nerf Report who kind of coined that one. Yeah. But it softens the blow, but it sucks. But as you said, Richie, it gives me cash to go and basically invest back in the games industry. I've seen people going, I'm going to get a Series S, I'm going to invest in this, I'm going to treat myself to a new PC. Well, that's a win. Yeah, that's a win. As much as it sucks, it's a win, because in the hardened times we're in, bills are going up. We're coming out of, think about you and me. We're coming out of winter. We'll have had the heating on, our gas, electric, whatever the shitty gas caps and stuff are, and the state of the world right now, inflation. Getting a payout of a couple £100 for no reason whatsoever, other than a games thing shut down. I think that's pretty sweet. All things said and done.
I'm thinking about buying a new guitar next month, so it's basically funding that. I'm probably going to look at more into things like maybe finally this is the time to jump into xCloud. So I'll probably buy an Xbox controller there. Mm-hmm. Maybe it pays for Game Pass for a while. This money is going to be very useful. It's going to be nice to have. I intend to. I don't want this to just be lost in my bills. So I want to invest this back into my hobbies.
Yeah, like when you get cash for your birthday and you think, I'll just stick it in my bank account, and then it's no, I'm going to use it to treat myself because it's ring fenced for a treat.
I was talking to people at work about this yesterday, and I see this now as Stadia's been probably the most fun savings account I've ever had.
that is true. Yeah, that really is true. It's a shame the pound's dropped to its terrible rate anyway. But yeah, it's good that they're doing it, and again, hardware on top of that. Richie, we invested over 3 years ago in a founders edition of this cloud platform because we believed in it. We liked the message of it. We put our hard cash front and center from the very beginning and said, look, I want to be in on this. I believe in it. It sounds great. Let's see where it goes. And then we spent £120. We got our 3 months Pro for free. We got our little card that welcomed us to the world of Stadia. One place for all the ways we play. And to think 3 years later, I'm going to get 120 quid back just to the penny. Yeah, I'll take it. Rather than a kick in the teeth, definitely. The good question in the chat, R4K1B asks, what happens with Google credit refunds? Because, I purchased, as you did, a lot of things through Google Play Store credits and rewards. Yeah. I suspect it'll probably just go to a cash refund, I would have thought.
What I've read is that you'll get refunded to the payment thing that you paid on. Where there's complications, they will reach out to you for with details and how to do it.
Expect an email.
So it may go, you may just get, if you've played through Google Rewards, you might just get Play Store stuff there. It might go back to your credit card or another card. Maybe they'll give you a choice. It seems like they're trying to figure this out and how best to do it.
Absolutely. Because the reality is, if I bought something with Play Store credit, that doesn't negate the fact that I could have went into a supermarket, bought a £10 Play voucher, and bought that. So I've still spent £10 of my own money specifically for this. So, and then I know people said the credit cards have expired. I'm guessing they'll just reach out and say, "Can you log in?"
That's the sort of nitty gritty where they'll just have to deal with this on a case by case.
Yeah.
So I think if it's the same credit card you've used all along and it's fine, it might be dead easy for them to just go, "There's your refund, move on."
Yeah.
But then probably once they get through all the automated easy ones, they'll have probably a team working on processing the individual outliers. And this is going to be a lot of work for them. This is not a simple endeavor.
No, it's not at all. But it's one that they didn't have to do. And Phil says in the chat, a very good point. Minus Stadia Pro, Richie, Stadia for us technically now has been free to play for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Because we're getting it all back. Win-win.
Yeah. That is, people are pointing out, R4K1B is pointing out, will it be full refunds though? The article avoided that. I'm sure I read it was, but I can't say for certain off the top of my head at the moment.
What, you mean the main Phil Harrison one?
Yeah, there was two. I'm sure there was two. There was a Phil Harrison one, but there was also the Google Stadia team put out an announcement themselves.
I mean, when you find it again, I think if we think about it from a logical point of view, saying we're going to refund everything and then turning around in a week's time and saying, oh, it's only going to be a 50% refund, that you can't say refund and then change the rules several times. So you're going to tell me you're going to refund me for my controller for 60 quid, but then a week later you turn around and say, oh, but we're only going to give you £20 worth of it. I think...
Right, reading from the Stadia blog, this is from the Stadia official team, and it was posted to the Stadia official Discord by Dan from Google. Bullet point number 3, Google will offer a full refund of all Stadia hardware purchases, Stadia Controller, Stadia Founders Edition, Stadia Premier Edition, or Play and Watch with TV package, made in the Google Store, and all purchases of games and in-game transactions made in the Stadia Store. So it is a full refund as long as you paid for it through official Stadia channels, which are the Google's own website and their Stadia Store. So if you've bought, I think for things like where we've got the code of developers, that probably won't count, which I wouldn't expect it to anyway. And if you've bought like code secondhand somehow, I don't think that was ever set up to do, you won't get a refund. If you've picked up a Stadia controller secondhand off eBay, you won't get a refund there.
Of course.
They're the caveats. But
yeah.
Otherwise, it is a full refund.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I'm sure many people have a Premier Edition set in the house that they've unopened. Ever going to open that? Now? Like, I have one set right there, and I think I was going to wait for my other white controller to die, and then now I'm thinking I might just preserve it eternally in its shrink wrap.
It's one of them where I think the Premier Edition one probably won't ever retain any or regain any value, but the Founders might. If you have a mint in condition at home box Founders condition, that's now a piece of history. It really is gamers history.
I have to grab it just because you said. There we go. There it is, boys and girls. One way in silver as well. It's set in the Stadia Red.
Yeah.
Founders Edition. Unfortunately, I did unbox mine though, of course, because I wanted to play Stadia. So it still retains some value. If anything, it's just, as you said, a piece of history that just like anyone out there rocking on live hardware or even a Nintendo Wii U at this point. It's retro. It's fun, and it's a piece of history that, who knows, maybe the controllers will find a second life. You know, it would be great if one of the other companies just came out and said, like, we'll endeavour to support third-party controllers. Like, just come out and say, like, if we can get the Stadia tech to run, we're happy to support them. I don't know. I'd imagine plugged in it might, through a PC desktop, but this is the stuff that we'll figure out along the way. Nothing really else to garner from the FAQ other than you don't need to return your gear, so when you get a refund for your controllers, you don't need to kind of drop them off at your local Walmart or Stadia. I mean, there's no Google stores really other than New York, so I'd love to know how many people rock up in the New York store and just hand them back in just for the crack. Why not? But yeah, I guess wind all this down. We'll get refunds, controller, game support's going to fade away. We mentioned that hopefully the tech will be utilised somewhere, whether that be through Bungie or another company buys it or whatnot. I guess the thing we kind of need to round out on this, Richie, for the show, Google and the games industry. I think that's it for them. I don't think there's any coming back for this. If they try in 10 years' time to get back into the games industry, I think they've burnt so many bridges with developers, publishers, the general public, their own customers, like consumers. I guarantee I've seen it. There's so many Stadia fans out there now who are like, I'm not even going to buy a Pixel now. Fuck Google. I'm not buying a Chromecast. I'll switch to a Fire Stick or a Roku box or whatever. And you know what?
The reality is, I was thinking about this the other week. I think Chromecasts are dying tech anyway, because most TVs now have the functionality built in.
And you know what? I'm kind of in the same thing. Like, I'm due a new phone in next summer. I think Pixel's off the cards for me now, just because of this. Because I'm like, you know what? Why should I give you my money? Obviously, we've got a different vested interest in the channel and content creation. We're a bit more spared than others. Burned than others. And it just feel like, my faith in kind of Google sticking with this is because we've defended them for so long about the Google graveyard and saying they're investing in the future, cloud gaming's getting bigger, the games industry's getting bigger, the tech works. Why would they throw the towel in? Only to finally be proven wrong. And this will be added to the list. Like, my faith in Google doing any new tech concept, project, adventure, I just don't trust them anymore. Yeah,
that's it. As you mentioned, them if they go back into the game industry, like, this was the one shot.
Yeah.
And well, it's over. And I know they say they're committed to the gaming industry, but I don't see how the gaming industry will be committed to Google.
Yeah, that was a weird sentence to say in the initial posts.
Yeah, we're committed to the gaming industry as we're shutting down our part of the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not on the level where I'm going, I'm never going to buy another Google product, like, because I've got a Pixel 4 XL and I love that phone. It's probably been the best phone I've ever had. It's over 3 years old and the battery is still solid. I have absolutely no issues with that phone. So when I eventually go for another phone, a Pixel might be under consideration. It's not a guarantee, but it never was. So, but when it comes to gaming, I'm just not going to. I'm not going to trust it. I'm definitely not going to be an early adopter of any Google product in gaming going forward.
No, you've done it in. Yeah, we remain deeply committed to gaming. And we won't.
Like, this is one of them annoying marketing speaks. Like, you say things, but like, you don't give any sort of information about what that means. Like, we're committed to it. Go on. What does that mean? Does that just mean you're going to keep on Google Play?
Yeah,
because that is part of the gaming industry.
Yeah, we know they make millions from the Play Store and mobile games, and I think that's the problem, is the Google higher-ups wanted the success that they see with mobile, but the difference with mobile is it's a much more casual audience, and there is hundreds of millions of them already. Those people already are well aware if they need to download a game, they know how to do it, they know how to play it, they know how to access it. Getting them to commit to Stadia was a whole different thing, and they just didn't launch it right, they didn't market it right, and then it got confusing, and the reality is they lost any chance of getting the casual people in. But yeah, where we see the future of gaming headed. You knew what the future of gaming was. You launched a platform off the back of it. You just didn't have the commitment to see it through.
Well, we have the commitment to see Helix Cloud Games through, though, so...
Exactly. Like, we can see where the cloud industry is going, and Xbox can see it. PlayStation will eventually pull their head out the sand and do something, I'm sure. Nintendo, like you said, are doing it. And just the reality is, Richie, is tech gets more expensive and 5G and Wi-Fi infrastructure gets better and better. Starlink and whatnot.
We haven't even touched on the new NVIDIA cards and how insanely overpriced they are. Well, they're not necessarily overpriced. That's the problem with them. But the new NVIDIA cards, the 40 series cards, are like £1,500.
Yeah, it's absolutely
You can
crazy.
Get 5 PlayStations for that.
Absolutely.
3 PlayStations for that, sorry. Terrible maths.
But yeah, absolutely crazy one. And I think we've covered most topics. I guess what I want to do now is throw it over to the chat to get your questions in, because on the Sounds of Stadia podcast, we don't often do them live. So everyone in the chat, if you've got a specific question you think we've not covered, or you'd like us to go a bit deeper on something, we'll probably say... We'll have a short window where we can answer them any questions.
Yeah.
So
right. While you do that, I'm going to quickly nip to the loo. I'll be back soon.
Oh, he's already starting.
Sorry. I've drank a lot of water and coffee.
Water and coffee. So yeah, chat, let us know. I'm here with you. I know some questions have been dropping through. Geek to Sneak still got a premiere edition in plastic. I actually have 2 Founders editions. I don't think I've ever even told Richie that, but yeah, I picked up another Founders edition a few months ago on eBay, just because I saw it and I was like, you know what, that's quite. I think I got it for like £30 or something, and I'm guessing now it's worth a lot more. So some disgruntled person was getting rid of it. Little did they know it was probably worth a lot more this week than it was last week. But yeah, Bulls for Life in the chat says, do we know when the refunds actually start? No, we don't. They've said in the blog, the frequently asked questions post, is that they'll be in touch. So I guess just make sure that your emails, anything Stadia spam related, is turned off so you don't miss them. If you've had any card transactions that have expired, they're probably going to reach out and ask you to update your Google account settings or something like that. But between now and January, fingers crossed before Christmas, ladies and gents, like if we can get a nice sweet payout, I think mine's due. I think, like Richie said, I think I'm expecting about £1,000 worth of a payout. So just before Christmas, hey, I'll take £1,000, even if the pound has dropped. Brendan in the chat asks, have you tried xCloud, Richie or Chris? Yeah, we've both dabbled in xCloud and Game Pass over the years. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised if we commit a bit more to xCloud, because it's definitely became the front runner, I think, in the cloud gaming space. They did a lot of effort, probably pushed on by Stadia, realistically, to upgrade their servers. We know they've used Series X blades. And I think Microsoft, the way they're investing in the industry with the billions and billions spent across Bethesda acquisitions and Activision Blizzard stuff and first-party studio acquisitions, Microsoft are the front runner. I think they've been our front runner for quite some time now, and Richie will no doubt reiterate that. And I've got 2 months. I've got 2 months Game Pass code sat there ready to renew. So yeah, I'd definitely say so. I think Richie was just saying there. I think Xbox, Microsoft Game Pass is definitely the default front runner in the cloud gaming space now. Like untested, the library, their tech, their application, their commitment. The ease of access. I think we did it. Actually, do we not go into this on CloudQuest?
We do. We literally break down Stadia. So take that with a pinch of salt going forward. Xbox, PlayStation, Luna, GeForce Now.
You know the most. So for everyone watching the episode 87 of CloudQuest, it usually goes up for our Helix Heroes early. It's part of this celebration show. It goes live tonight, I think, about 11 p.m. UK time. You will be able to catch it later on demand, but we did record it last week to try and get something in the bag before this show. And
we recorded it early, knowing we had a lot of stuff to prep for today. So that was an episode we could just get in the bag, get it done last week while we were recording the Cyberpunk one, which went live yesterday. So we just did them back to back.
Yeah.
Which then freed us up to do other stuff, and then Stadia threw a wrench in my plans.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're talking about Brendan was asking if we've tried xCloud. I said, yeah, we've dabbled, but not like fully committed. So if that's something you want to see us do, just let us know. Jin in the chat says, can you use xCloud without owning an Xbox? Yeah, through PC and your phone.
You need Game Pass Ultimate for that. I think with Game Pass, there's kind of 3 tiers. There's the console tier, the PC tier, and then Ultimate, which is both.
Yeah.
But I think you need, I'm not sure, I have to double check. I think you need for xCloud the Ultimate.
I believe
Correct
so.
me if I'm wrong.
That's the last time I did, and I used it on my phone for a little bit. I played like Ori and the Blind Forest and stuff. It worked fine. Again, a little bit of lag at the time, but that was over a year ago. I think I tried that one, and I did some on my PC. So yes, you can play it, but no surprise if some point in the next year we see whatever Project Keystone is, which is the streaming stick from Xbox. And of course, if you've got a Samsung Smart TV from 2022 onwards, you can play it on the Samsung Gaming Hub, which, ironically enough, Samsung Gaming Hub have probably done more Stadia promos, tweets out than Stadia have in the last few months since their launch at Gamescom. And now they're just going to have to quietly not talk about it because Stadia is going to be taken off all of our smart TVs. It's quite sad, actually, with the Chromecast, when I've been watching like Disney Plus and Netflix and stuff, and I boot it up, and the Stadia tile is there, like asking me to boot up a game. And the last 2 nights when I've turned on the TV to watch something with the wife, and it's just like, that's not going to be there for long. And it's like, it's just that one day it's just going to be pulled from the page, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, you do. What we have here, something we've never done on the channel, a live unboxing of a game.
Are you just rubbing it in now?
Yeah.
All the poop. It's not a Stadia game you've got in that box.
And there's your unboxing of FIFA 23.
So nice, so nice. The last FIFA. Not only is this the last few months of Stadia, but FIFA 23. FIFA as a brand won't exist from EA, of course, beyond this year. So it'll be EA Sports Football FC, which is next.
Yeah.
Let's see. Using your phone, you need to sign up for Ultimate. I signed up for £1 yesterday. Yeah, I've got 2 months free. If anyone uses Discord, if you go into your rewards section on Discord, I got 2 months free randomly from Discord. Yeah. If you go into the little cog and then it says my rewards or my perks or something, and then there was just a little 2 month claim Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, so win-win. Yeah, xCloud, less lag now. And again, I think the reality is they're going to invest in it. Microsoft, they've been testing more of their servers across the planet. They're expanding their Azure network, just like Amazon will be with AWS, and we'll see what Amazon Luna looks like in its global rollout. You know what? I'll be interested to see, Richie, if now Stadia's gone, it's dead, it's killed, it's in the graveyard. Do you think the state of journalism and general public consensus is now going to pivot its anger towards Luna?
I don't know.
Because I'm very curious to know if everyone's going to now say, well, now Stadia's dead, Luna can't be far behind, and now they're going to have, as much as I'm sure people at the Amazon team were like, aha, there's one of our biggest rivals, gone. That's a win. But then actually, I think it might be more detrimental, because if Stadia, Google can't do it, why the hell could Amazon?
I always took the approach by some journalists. Some journalists were absolutely fine. By some journalists towards Stadia being, because of the kind of a botched launch where just like literally a month before it came out, they started rolling back on promised features. Mm-hmm. All the features they announced did eventually come.
Yeah.
But the expectation is that they'd be there for launch, and then they rolled back. That kind of soured the launch. And I think some journalists never got over that. And then there was a lot, I think, of just apathy. And I think that's probably why a lot of journalists never go over it, because of the apathy, they were never looking at the platform. So they're just leaning on what they knew about the platform.
Yeah.
Rather than they weren't seeing how it's grown over time. So
yeah.
I don't think Amazon's had that because they release in early access. That gives them so much freedom to kind of grow naturally, to make mistakes, develop the service. So I think Amazon's largely in people's good books in terms of that sense.
But this is where I think you say grow naturally and grow slowly, but Luna is also part of a bigger fish that is Amazon. And who makes the decisions higher up at Amazon to commit to this game? And I know it's a bit different because they've invested in Twitch heavily. They have their own studios, so in a lot of ways, they're doing things differently to how Stadia is. But I keep going back to it. They're still in the United States. They're no longer in beta. And I don't see anyone... I follow so much cloud gaming stuff, and I don't see anybody following it. And that could just be because it's limited to the US. But the United States has a population of beyond most countries combined. And yet, I see barely anything. Their Twitter account still only has 27,000 followers. And it's been in existence for nearly 2 years now. And I'm just thinking, unless they start a big marketing push, and the way journalists took to Stadia, I feel like Luna could possibly go the other way. Big tech company, investing in an industry it knows nothing about. Here we go. And I
think it's
weird.
I think there's probably a lot of apathy around Luna, apart from when Amazon do a push for it. And then people play and go, actually, this works quite well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have that negative start, that negativity isn't ingrained in people. So they'll just take it as it is and go, yeah, there's flaws with it. It is a sub-only model. You can't buy your games. You don't own your games. Games may come and go. We talk about this. We'll talk more on CloudQuest later. But because it doesn't have that ingrained negativity, I think any time a journalist gets their hands on it, they just take it for what it is, and probably go, it's got potential, and then go back to being quite apathetic about it and focusing elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, not every journalist, and I'm not thinking about anyone in particular when we say this sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's a crazy one. It's an interesting one with a submodel. Again, I guess, Richie, when it finally does come out and we can finally test it, we will have coverage on the channel by nature of what we usually cover. But I think that's probably about it for this week's show. I'm sure we could go on, especially with the chat, we could go on for probably a good... I mean, we will go on for a few hours because we're here all day celebrating, but this was always going to be an interesting episode. I think there was always that voice at the back of our mind that said we would have to round out the Sounds of Stadia podcast at some point. And I guess this way it's out of our control in a way, so it makes it a little bit easier for us because we always said we were in it for the long haul. We said time and time on the show, like, as long as Stadia existed, we would be doing the Sounds of Stadia podcast, and we'll stay true to that, and we have stayed true to that. And we'll figure out what we want to do with it for the months to come, because, as I said, there's going to be loads of news, loads of fallout, and whether it just turns into a celebration, our Helix Heroes, anyone out there who wants to kind of just maybe come on the show and actually talk about Stadia, like what it meant to you, some of the great memories you've had, like, the show might inevitably will become shorter, Richie. I know we can talk shit for probably an hour regardless. Shoot the breeze and such.
Well, I think what we're planning to do is we plan to keep it going, as I said earlier, as long as the show makes sense for us to do, as long as we have something Stadia related to talk about and we can produce a show around that, whether it is, yes, there's news dropping, or we're going to celebrate, bring other potential creators on and use it to kind of like be nostalgic and showcase other people, or we've got ideas, but we'll see. We're still talking. I mean, we haven't had much time to actually talk about what the future of the show and the channel is. We have been talking a bit. We've got ideas going forward, but nothing's in concrete yet. So we're literally probably just going to be taking it week by week for now. We'll let you know as soon as we have solid plans.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's still so fresh in everyone's mind. Like, we've not had time. I know when I read the news the other day, I was prepping for the show and this very celebration and trying to get like kind of just the content laid out and the run of the show to make sure it all goes off seamlessly without a hitch across 11, 12 hours. And yeah, just kind of looking back at our video of the kind of the 3 years and celebrating and the bittersweetness of it all. But it hasn't really settled in yet. I was trying to say to my wife about just kind of, as she just goes on about her normal life, of course, not paying any attention to Stadia or gaming.
Chris's toy is broken.
I mean, again, it's in a weird way. Like, I think Rock said on Twitter in a really good analogy, like, obviously it's not a real person. We've not lost anyone. It's just a bit of technology. But as with anything, if you've poured your energy into it and your time, more importantly, and it's a passion for you, to have it just kind of taken away, whether it's a real thing or not, there is something sad about it. And honestly, I think the last night and Thursday night, I didn't sleep great. And not through, like, don't get me wrong, I still got a good, like, solid 7 odd hours in sleep, but getting asleep and looking at my social feed and just Twitter and everything and Facebook was just kind of like, it was sad to read. It's been a hectic few days, actually, because we've had the celebration, like, all focus is trying to get that done. Things have been going off in Twitter and Discord and stuff. It kind of hit me a bit last night when I was like finishing up editing Stadia Scope. I was like, oh yeah, this is like last one we'll ever do.
Yeah, this is the last Stadia Scope we'll ever do today. Like, we might do something similar, but it won't be called Stadia Scope. Yeah. But yeah, I did something. I put a bit of a nostalgia trip on. I did it myself, actually. I went full nostalgia trip for this episode of Stadia Scope. So I was like, yeah,
that's good. And for those who don't know what Stadia Scope is, we're playing it later on tonight with the Caring in the Clouds charity stream. It's essentially it's guess the game through a zoomed in feature. So we'll start off really zoomed in on some Stadia artwork, and then we'll pull out scene by scene, and you have to guess the game. And we'll probably have some beers and some pizza at the time with you.
Have you actually had a look through it?
No, because I wanted to play along, so I didn't want to. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird, and as you said, the kind of Sounds of Stadia podcast, 150 episodes, 150 weeks consistently, every Monday, every weekend, Richie, we've sat down, we've discussed Stadia news, and it's been a big part of our lives. We've gone through lockdown with it, COVID.
To be honest, this podcast was probably so beneficial for both. I assume I don't know for you, but for my mental health through lockdown, just having this platform where every week I sat down with my friends, with you and Tom and other guests, and talking to the chat, and like it give that kind of at a time when the world went, you can't go see people. I was able to see people and interact with people.
Yeah, it really was. It's a big part of our lives. And I think that's what I was trying to explain to my wife. Kind of like, as I'm just going about looking at my phone and stuff. But I'm quite like just, you know me. I'm quite happy-go-lucky. Yeah. Always in a good mood kind of thing. And every day is a new day kind of thing. But yeah, it was a moment of like, there's a lot of effort and energy gone into 3 years. That just kind of pulled the rug out from under everyone. So gamers, and I think the biggest thing a lot of people talk about is just the community around it, and that all these wonderful people, the people in the chat right now, the people on socials, the people who follow us, they've lost their home, they've been evicted from it, and come January is that kind of that thread that connects us all, it is gone. And where we go from there, like again, we all still exist. We're all still alive and well and healthy, hopefully out there. And we all of a sudden all of our Twitter feeds and stuff don't just disappear. They're not severed as well. But,
I've been stressing to people. People probably get sick of me hearing me say like over the course of today and on Discord and Twitter, like we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but there is that element where it's like the friend list. Like when I look at my Stadia page and I'm like, I've got a unique gamer tag that I'll never get again. Probably like that of my choosing, no numbers or anything. It's got a founder's logo next to it, and that friends list come January 18th just evaporates. And if I jump online, I mean I can't jump online, but that list of all those people, all those familiar names you see that say online, playing this, playing that, and you just kind of get a little bit of insight into people's lives all over the planet. And
we do have a gamer tag section of our Discord where people can drop the gamer tags, so we can reconnect on other platforms.
We should. But I think to round out the show, I think we just want to thank you, the wonderful community out there, for making this possible. We wouldn't be here 3 years on if it wasn't for the wonderful folks who, not only our Helix Heroes who support us that extra little bit further, loads of you in the chat, I can see a few have just jumped back in. Purple Haze, thanks for stopping by. Geek to Sneak as well. We wouldn't be doing this still if it wasn't without your continued support, and we've got plans for the channel. We've had plans for some time. Like realistically, we've had the Stadia podcast, the Sound Stadia podcast started us up. It got us on our cloud adventure, our journey. We've obviously since branched out. We launched SideQuest, which became CloudQuest, to talk about a wider breadth of subjects. Did it get us some shit back in the day? Yeah. Oh, what do you mean you're not just covering solely Stadia? And did we take an impact on subs and stuff? Yeah, everybody did. But it was the right thing to do, to branch out. And we did Talking to PS. We're 15 weeks into a PlayStation podcast, and loads of you tune in for that every week. And we can't thank you enough for getting that off the ground. Welcoming new people in as well. Rob's going to be with us later on, celebrating. But we've seen so much change and happen through the world and our lives. And I think it's the biggest thing I always take away, Richie, is the positive things and watching the video back with the 3 years. Oh, yeah. So many happy memories of just like laughs, games, fun along the way. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it has. It has. I'm starting to get a bit emotional.
I know I am as well. I can feel myself going.
I was sat there listening to you talk. It's like, oh yeah, let's wrap up the show.
It is. Let's wrap up the show. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Sounds of Stadia podcast for episode number 158, live with our wonderful chat that are here. And I know loads of you saying support along the way, but it does feel like the end of an era. So yeah, thank you very much.
The next generation of Helix Cloud Games is coming.
The next generation is coming. We have got stuff in the works already. We've already been talking, going back and forth. We are here for the full day to celebrate. So now we've got the kind of bulk of the news, the shock news out the way. We can move on to playing games and having fun for the rest of the day. Giveaways. We've not really mentioned this show. I'll actually talk about it after, because if you're listening to this podcast on a Monday, you've already missed out on the giveaway, so sorry. But we're going to be doing that. This has been the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Every week, me and Richie get together and round up all the Stadia and cloud gaming news for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Shout out to our Helix Heroes, the wonderful people, over 50 of you who help support that little bit extra. And you can do so in the description below. Also, our Discord server, we've got a lovely little community that talk all day, every day, and they will continue to do so about the good and the bad of the games industry. Descriptions down below as well. We're celebrating 3 years of Helix Cloud Games, and thank you for sticking with us And we've got lots of exciting things in the pipeline for the future. So although the community has been impacted, it doesn't have to go anywhere, and we'll always be a part of it as long as we possibly can. I was going to say CloudQuest, Richie, goes live on Friday.
Yes, CloudQuest, we lost an episode launched last Friday covering Cyberpunk. We have one going live as part of our stream today on the Saturday if you're with us. If you're not, if you listen to this on podcast services or on the VOD on Monday, it will be out on Friday covering the business models of cloud gaming, including Stadia. That we take that with it, what it is. We had no chance to kind of go in and change, so we decided, you can have the episodes, and when we cover Stadia,
we'll get there.
It doesn't,
We'll get there. But that's been it, folks. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. And remember, everyone, play wherever makes you the happiest. Unless it gets shut down on January 18th, then you've got to find somewhere else. But you know what it is. Right, we're going to go where Helix Cloud Celebration will continue in just a moment.